So if the ACC and the PAC join in a super conference, that will open up the grant of rights for the ACC and the SEC, and the Big Ten will start picking them apart. See, I don't necessarily believe that's true. And let's get into this a little bit, because I think this is a very interesting conversation. And the way I would jump off on this is I want to add this situation with the Pac-12 into this conversation. This is George Kliavkoff's letter, or part of it, to the UC Board of Regents. Look at what he put in here. Currently spends approximately $8.1 million a year on travel for its teams to compete in the Pac-12 conference. UCLA will incur 100% increase in its team's travel cost if it flies commercial. Never mind that nothing that Kliavkoff has said makes you understand that UCLA has strongly hinted that they will from now on fly charter because they are in the Big Ten. He never references, and I think that's an important point.
Yeah.
Kliavkoff never one time referenced the fact that UCLA intends to fly their sports teams charter. Never, not one time does he mention that.
Yeah.
And the other thing, when you read through this, you're looking at its assistant coach salaries. You're talking about coaching salaries and bonuses by increased by 19%. Where are you getting these numbers? Where are you getting assistant coach salaries by 13%? It guaranteed expenses will rise by 122%, and its administrator salaries by 27%. I remind you, George Kliavkoff has not shown a shred of evidence to back up these numbers. He has not shown any information. He has nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single thing. He talks about the mental health. He talks about the drag that it will take.
Yeah.
But if you look at these numbers right here, there's nothing to back this up. And all we've done is listen to George Kliavkoff run his mouth about how bad things are, and how this is a bad move, and supplying no supporting evidence. Listen to what he said the other day. This is George Kliavkoff telling you how he figured out these numbers.
Back to the envelope calculations on the negative impact on UCLA expenses, travel expenses, and just expenses for coaches' salaries and other things, just to get to the average Big Ten athletic budget. And, we think that the incremental money they're going to receive from the Big Ten media rights deal will be more than 100% offset by additional expenses. So you end up taking that money that you earn, and it goes to airline and charter companies and coaches and administrators. It doesn't go to supporting the student athletes.
That was Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff on the Canzano-Wilner podcast this week. And note, he was well aware that there was going to be a UC Board of Regents meeting. They asked the Pac-12 for a response or to provide a statement. And, oh, by the way, all of this comes on the heel of this story out of the where was this? The News and Observer is where this story came from, right? And as I try to awkwardly remove the banners from the screen, you read this, and all of a sudden you see that North Carolina's executives, the people that run the University of North Carolina, were text messaging and saying, quote, should we explore a partnership with the Big 12 or the Pac-12? That's UNC Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham texting his chancellor. We could have a super conference both athletically and academically, the chancellor responded. Probably would need to be called the Athletic Pacific Athletic Conference. Maybe that's crazy, but if it gets us a better TV deal, it may be worth considering. Like, this is, to me, the only possible outcome here. I think it's the only way that the Pac-12 has any ability to survive is if they merge with the Big 12 or the ACC. George Kliavkoff, in my opinion, is a liar. George Kliavkoff is a spinster. George Kliavkoff is a politician. And here's my question. Even if you keep UCLA in the conference, and let's say somehow that the University of California Board of Regents decides to forbid UCLA from leaving for the Big Ten, who's the winner in that? Is it the Pac-12? Because I don't see that as a possibility. You're going to have a pissed off UCLA that's not going to want to be a team player, that's not going to want to play nicely, and there's still going to be a ton of money in the hole.
Yeah.
How is that a win? So now UCLA goes to the Big Ten, and because George Kliavkoff is a liar and a schemer, now they're likely going to have to give a significant amount of their profit from the Big Ten to Cal Berkeley. Which, what does that mean? Less money for students, less money for infrastructure, and it negates really the profit that you're getting by joining the Big Ten. Like, there's no win here. And that's why I say when you look at George Kliavkoff in this situation, George Kliavkoff is a joke. And yes, I think George Kliavkoff is a liar.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest hypocrisy in the whole situation is that in this letter, he goes on, to talk about how, this money isn't going to, and he said it in that soundbite too, obviously, that the money isn't going to go to benefiting the student athlete. And it's like, dude, like, it's not going to the student athlete now. Like UCLA, like, this isn't a conversation about how much money UCLA is going to make by going to the Big Ten. Like, let's be very clear. UCLA is not talking about profiting by going to the Big Ten. UCLA is talking about losing less money by going to the Big Ten. So they're like 10 miles in the hole of debt right now. They're saying, hey, by going to the Big Ten, we're going to dig out of that hole a little bit. We're going to start moving the right direction. And I can respect that. I don't even have a problem with that. But my biggest issue here, specifically with Kliavkoff, is I agree. He is spinning. He is doing what politicians do, which is I'm gonna write a letter and I'm gonna do what commissioners do. I'm gonna do some commissioning and I'm gonna write this letter and I'm basically gonna paint the most negative picture that I could about the prospect of UCLA going to the Big Ten. And I'm going to try and spin it in a way that makes it look like UCLA doesn't care about their student athletes at their institution, which I have to believe is just incredibly inaccurate. I would guess that on some level they do care about their student athletes and they are trying to do right by them, which, by the way, going to the Big Ten pretty much helps every student athlete involved because they're going to get more exposure. They're going to get more opportunities. So that's why I say I don't love this whole situation from basically every angle. I don't like that we're here because Larry Scott and the former regime was just absolutely terrible at their job. And so now you've got a guy in George Kliavkoff who very much is coming in and trying to clean up the sins of the past. So through that process, he is, I agree, a schemer, and he is a spinner, and he is a fibber.
I don't even think he's fibbing. I think George Kliavkoff is straight up a bold-faced liar. And I think he's a scammer. I think George Kliavkoff is an embarrassment and a blight on the face of college football. I think George Kliavkoff is no better than Larry Scott. I think George Kliavkoff is grasping at straws and anything he can hang on to keep UCLA in the conference. When what he doesn't realize is keeping UCLA in the conference solves nothing. It fixes no problems.
Yeah.
This conference is dead on arrival. It's over. What you need to do now is make the decision on how to survive going forward. And the biggest problem for a guy like George Kliavkoff is he's worried about his own ass instead of what's best for the conference.
Schemers trying to control their little world.
But in all seriousness, when you look at the moves that George Kliavkoff is making, they make no sense in the light of, hey, what are we going to do to survive here and thrive here? They make perfect sense when you're trying to be punitive, when you're trying to damage UCLA, when you're looking for a win, when the fact is there's no win to be had here.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. If George Kliavkoff truly cared about what is best for the Pac-12 and its membership, he'd be exploring hard a merger with the ACC.
Yeah, and I think, as I've said several times, and we've talked about on the show, like, the super conference concept is coming to college football. Like, again, it may not be tomorrow or a month from now, but it is coming to college football. And I think that this this whole idea of the ACC merging to form a super conference with either the Pac-12 or the Big 12 is really interesting to me because it does kind of send the message that the ACC views the Big 12 and the Pac-12 is sort of the same value. Like, obviously, geographically speaking, they're in different locations, but basically they view them as sort of the same opportunity. And I think if I was George Kliavkoff looking at that sentiment, based on what they said in that report, I would be all over that because I don't believe that the Pac-12 is frankly in as strong of a position as the Big 12. I don't believe that the Pac-12 is nearly as healthy as the Big 12. So if I could somehow find a way to merge with an East Coast conference and basically ensure my survival for the next, however long, probably 10 years.
Absolutely.
If you think about it, because like something on that level, you're talking about decades in terms of windows in time at that point. So to me, I agree. The guy is an idiot for not being all over this. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
The thing that comes to my mind is, how does the Pac-12 screw it up every single time?
Yeah.
How does it happen? Like you just can't even you can't even quantify how much money this conference has just burned. Like, set it on fire and burn it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even, how much money have they not made? How much money have they wasted? How much money have they simply just spent poorly because of poor management?
Is this the dagger?
And George Kliavkoff just continues that trend of incompetence and ineptitude. Again, the Pac-12 is dead on arrival.
Yeah.
It's over, man.
Well, that's the other thing in the letter. Like this,
Man.
and this has always been one of my biggest things with Kliavkoff. Like the sentiment that the Pac-12 is like this great athletic conference, and it's been around since 1928, I think it is, and like basically just painting this picture of like this historically great and successful conference. Like, I understand that heritage matters. Like with UCLA, there may not be a better example of heritage than UCLA with the basketball program and
Jackie Robinson
and like
John
everything
Wooden.
that's gone down at UCLA over since its inception. Like, they have heritage. But the problem is that every day that you live in the past, you're not living in the now. And frankly, you got to live in the now. Like, you got to find your parachute to survive. Because I have to start to wonder, does George Kliavkoff have any fear that the league will be forced to fold, that the conference will not survive? Because the way he's operating tells me one of two things. He either doesn't believe it's a possibility that the Pac-10 will die, or he's just he's just denying it. He's just in denial. Like, he just doesn't want to accept that fact. Either scenario is bad for every school in the Pac-10. And that's why I say, if you're Utah, if you're Oregon, if you're Washington, hell, even Stanford, a higher, educational institution or whatever, like, schools like that have to find the next path for them. You have to find the door, the escape hatch. You got to go, because if you're going to sit here and you're going to basically rely on Kliavkoff to secure your future, I'm not sure that you have a good future. That's the problem.
Yep. Let's get some of your thoughts in here. Caleb says, who cares if they have to pay double or more for travel? The money they will make covers that easily. The issue is, and I don't think you're wrong, but the issue is the travel cost isn't the only thing that matters here. Like, I think the higher cost would be offset by marketing deals. That's what you have to consider with UCLA. You can sell a bill of goods if you're UCLA to get an on-campus football stadium that, people actually want to go to.
Yeah.
Because the Rose Bowl's an embarrassment right now. You just are a healthier, better athletic program in the Big Ten than you are in the dead already Pac-12.
Yeah.
And whether it's travel, cost of doing business, like salaries, whatever that might be, George Kliavkoff isn't talking about those realities, that UCLA has the ability in the Big Ten to get more money from a Nike or an Adidas.
Yeah.
UCLA has the ability not only to get more money out of its TV deal, but to get more money out of its digital deals, its content creation. Again, I only point to BYU as the national example of how to leverage your content, how to, and I say this all the time. I told somebody the other day, hey, if you're a sports team, the only thing you should care about is, oh, my coach is taking a crap. Okay, how am I going to get that on video and attach a sponsor to it?
Yeah.
Hey, my coach coughed or sneezed. How am I going to get that on video and make money on it?
Yes.
Anything that you do as an athletic team should be on video, and it should be making you money.
Yes.
And if it's not, you're doing it wrong.
Keep it real.
I mean, it really is that simple.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Yeah.
And listen, if you're doing something that's not making you money, why? And if you want to do some things that make you money, I'm all on board for that. Like, football at 50, 10 of the hour, every hour, presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza. Anyway, yes, football at 50, 10 to the hour, every hour. All right, we'll have locks for you throughout the show. I don't think this is a great week in college football. If you look at the college football scoreboard, I mean, is there a game that really excites you? Oh, the best game? USC and Oregon State. Oh, wait, that's not on TV. Well, I mean, it's on the Pac-12 network, which is the same thing. It's not on TV. But see, the point is, nobody's going to see USC and Oregon State this week. Yeah. Are you surprised that game is on Pac-12 network?
Yeah, I am. I mean, but again, at the same time, I'm not, because it's the Pac-12, right? Like, so why would the Pac-12 want to put its best brand or its most popular brand right now on TV, where everyone can widely find it? Oh, that's right. They don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the you look at the SEC. You look at Georgia, the number one team in the country. Oh, bummer. They're playing Kent State.
Neat.
Okay, I understand why that's on ESPN Plus, right? You totally understand that. But when you start looking down the list of these other games and you see that, hey, man, Oregon and Washington State, that game's on Fox. Okay, but it's not USC in Oregon State. Like, the best game in your conference is not on major TV.
Yeah, it's a problem, dude. It's absolutely a problem,
that.
Man. I think it's classic. It's classic Pac-12, Pac-10 edict, and they just don't prioritize content and getting SC and Utah and Oregon on ESPN or Fox every single week.
Arguably the best game of the week is Arkansas, Texas A&M. A&M's a 2-point favorite in that game.
Yeah.
Is Arkansas legit? Are you a buyer or a seller on Arkansas?
I'm definitely not a seller. I'm just hesitant to buy because I want to see him do it over a longer period of time. That's my biggest thing. Like, with SEC teams that aren't named Alabama and Georgia, I want to see you do it over like a 5 or 6 week span. I want to see you dominate people week in and week out, And I think that if you do that, like if you're 5-0, let's say, or if you're, a strong 4-1 or whatever, then yeah, I'm buying it. But I want to see longevity.
If Arkansas wins its next 2 games, you look at their schedule. They're 3-0. Arkansas's 3-0. Yeah. KJ Jefferson's been unbelievable this year, completing 70% of his passes. Great. You look at their next 3 games at Texas A&M, hosting Alabama,
Roll Tide,
Mississippi State, at BYU, at Auburn. Like, their next 5 weeks even. That's going to write their story. This is a huge stretch of games. Pay attention to the Arkansas Razorbacks, especially the next 2 weeks before BYU.
Yep.
Pay attention to the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's a huge stretch of games for them. I actually think they're legit when you have a quarterback that's as good as KJ is. And again, I just point to his completion percentage. You look at how he completed 48 2 years ago, 67 last year, and now 70%, damn near 71% of his passes this year.
Pretty good, dude.
He's growing and getting better. Arkansas, I'm telling you, is absolutely legit. I'm going to take... I want to take Texas A&M, but it's Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, dude, come on.
And your only again, the line is 2 points for A&M at home.
Yeah.
At
home.
It
tells you, again, that tells you everything you need to know. Vegas is saying they think Arkansas is going to win this game because the home team gets 3 points. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is Arkansas's game.
I really want New Mexico to beat LSU. Coach Saban. I really want LSU to lose. Brian Kelly should never win another game. LSU, listen to some of the lines in the SEC this week. LSU's favored by 31.5 over New Mexico. Alabama
Roll Tide.
by 41 points over
I'm
Vandy.
sorry, I thought you said 41 points,
I
dude.
said 41 points.
Dude.
Alabama favored by.
We get it, Will. You're a good defensive end.
We get it. Kentucky favored by 26.5 over the
I'm
mighty
so-
Huskies of Northern
Dude,
Illinois.
I'm so tired of the Kentucky bandwagon, dude.
Ole
I'm
Miss,
tired of it.
Ole Miss 21.5 over Tulsa. How about Tennessee, Florida? Tennessee, Florida is
See, now
actually a
this
really
is-
good game.
Yeah, see, like, this is one where I'm like, hey, neither of these two teams are probably college football playoff good or national championship good or anything, but
You
that's
don't
a
think
good...
you don't think Tennessee is
No.
national championship
No.
good?
No.
Oh,
Nope.
contraire. Okay, look, I
Nope.
agree. Florida, and we talked about this after the Utah loss.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that Florida was overrated from the get.
Yeah.
I totally agree with
Yeah.
that. I'm telling you, Tennessee is legitimately good. Tennessee's a team. I know you write them off, but you remember I said this on Friday, September 23rd, and if they lose this weekend, I'll deny it. But if Tennessee, if Tennessee keeps rolling, Rocky Top, if Tennessee keeps rolling, that's a team that could get into the playoff. And I know that's
they
crazy.
have the nameplate to get into the playoff, but again, and this is what you have to do this time of year in college football. You're 3 weeks in. There's a bunch of hype around these teams. You have to just stay centered. It's Tennessee. They're not going to be this good over the longevity of the season. Dude.
All I can say is we'll find out because they've got Florida this week, at LSU, home for Alabama. That's the next 3 weeks for Tennessee. You want to know if Tennessee's any good? Ask me a month from now
Got
when
Georgia
they play
later in the season.
When they play UT Martin in a month. Ask me what their record is.
UT Martin.
Right? Like, ask me what the record is. But by the way, as good as the lines are in the SEC, they're awful in the Pac-12. Do you understand that UCLA's 2-0, and nobody's seen it because they had like 7 fans in the building. They're going to Boulder to take on Colorado. How about UCLA 21.5 points on the road?
Yeah.
Road favorite. You're a
Yeah.
home dog, Colorado, by 21.5 points.
Colorado's garbage.
That's
dude.
how bad Colorado
Yeah, they're
is.
garbage, dude.
Little surprised to see that Oregon's a 6.5 point favorite on the road at Washington
I
State.
think the storyline with Oregon right now, after that BYU game, is that Oregon's back and that Oregon and Bo Nix figured it out. Here's the problem. Bo Nix is not good on the road.
Here's the deal.
Yeah, here's the deal. I'm the worst there is on the road. And that's the problem with Bo Nix. He's just not the same guy on the road, so I would expect that to be a tight game.
I would say the most difficult game to call is Washington's a 13.5 point home favorite over Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Washington has been playing good football, dude. Like, yeah, that's tough, dude.
I don't think they cover that number on Stanford. I could be wrong. I love Arizona State to get under the 15.5. Utah should win that game.
Nah.
Really?
Nah. Utah's going to dominate them.
I hope they do.
Utah's got size.
I'd love to see like a 42-10.
What I want to see is
love to
Utah
see that.
roll out more quickly in this game. Last week, it took you too long against San Diego State to get it going, so you limited the top end in points. But I think against Arizona State, if you can get going a little quicker, that's going to be a lot more comfortable. The momentum will be there for you.
Do you have Vele and Enos again this week?
I think you have Vele again this week. Yeah, I think once a guy like him finds his stride,
Solomon Enos is good.
yeah.
You're writing off my guy.
I'm not.
His dad.
I'm not writing him off.
Listen,
bro.
Solomon Enos' dad was a fine running back for my R&We, the beloved, the Chicago Bears.
The Bears who
The
played
Bears.
a horse trick.
The Bears and stuff. That's not nice. They don't play there yet. The point is, his father played for the Bears. How can you not root for Solomon Enos, not Ennis?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I like Utah in that game, obviously. That number scares me a little bit, though. That number scares me just a wee bit. All right, Football 50, 10 of the hour, every hour, presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza. Alex Chacon says, do you think UCLA is playing good football? I don't know. They haven't. You got to get into the conference schedule to figure out if they're playing good football. And you're on the road this week. There's no excuse. We'll find out. Boyd Lake says the Razorbacks have a beast at running back. I don't disagree with that. They're legitimately good.
Wait, hold on. You skipped over something there with Boyd. Go back to Boyd. Notice how he says Sanders is huge.
No, what do you mean huge?
Huge.
By the way, speaking of huge, so did you see our guy, the spray tan Don guy. Did you see that Donnie told this special master that he essentially appointed that the FBI planted evidence, and the special master's like, hey, you're going to need to prove that. And Donnie's like, okay, we'll see you later. Like, what? Guy, what are you doing, Donnie?
Yeah.
Football 50, 10 of the hour, every hour on the Monty Show, and it is presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza.
No one goes all in on made-from-scratch freshness like Papa Murphy's. We go all in on quality. All in on craft. And on the Triple Pep Pizza, we go all in on pepperoni. Because when you go all in, people notice. Go all in with a limited-time Triple Pep Pizza, topped with 3 types of pepperoni for just $11.99. Papa Murphy's. Change the way you pizza.
Papa Murphy's, 10 of the hour, every hour. They present Football at 50 on the Monty Show. Hey, by the way, one quick question here at 7 o'clock for you. Do you guys pay attention to lines? I mean, here in Utah, we're not allowed to wager our hard-earned ducats on the outcome of sporting contests or the lottery. And, you know, we can't drink half-flavored beer and bet on sports in this state, but I'm curious if you guys pay attention to lines. Do you guys bet on sports? You know, well, I mean, we don't bet on but offshore. Anyway, the point is, do you guys pay attention to betting lines? I'm curious about that. I pay attention to them every week.
Yeah.
Like, I look at them all the time. I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated that the boys in Vegas always seem to get it right. Like, I'm curious how much people pay attention to the lines. The Monty Show presented by our good friends at the Advocates, Utah, advocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. And a measure of a man's integrity is what he's asking you for, right? So when you get yourself into an accident, if you're going to an attorney and they're like, all right, yeah, why don't you give me $10,000 as a retainer and we'll see what we can do for you. That's not where you want to be. You want to be with the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com, because they don't have crazy retainers. Their free consultations are actually free. It costs you nothing. And the best part is you don't pay the Advocates anything until they win your case. That's how confident they are that they can be your advocate when you're injured. It's not your fault you got into an accident. You need an advocate to fight for you and to do things like defer your medical bills. So get to UtahAdvocates.com. You can chat with them online. You don't even have to call them. You can chat online. It's super hands-off. Trust me when I say Matt Driggs and the guys at the Advocates, I've known them for a decade. They're the best in the business for a reason. And by the way, I forgot about this. They were named one of the, I believe, the Advocates. You want to know how good the dudes at the Advocates are? The Advocates were named one of the top 10, I want to say one of the top 10 firms in the country.
Yes.
Which is just incredible when you think about all of the injury attorneys and lawyers. The Advocates are now an award-winning law firm and have been for some time, but they're one of the best injury attorneys in the country, UtahAdvocates.com. The biggest stories in sports this morning. I think this merger thing that we have been hearing about, and it's funny that all of this happens while George Kliavkoff is lying through his teeth to the UC Board of Regents yesterday, again trying to undermine what's best for UCLA. We get this story now that says, through a Freedom of Information request by a newspaper in North Carolina, we find out that the ACC and its leadership had text messages that started with the University of North Carolina about merging with the Big 12 or the Pac-12. And they even had in these text messages, you'll notice they even came up with a name if they merge with the Pac-12, the Athletic Pacific Athletic Conference, otherwise known as APAC. This is serious. Like they're really looking at the ACC, how they can secure their future and grow their footprint and make more money for their members. This is absolutely what the ACC should be looking at. And my question again, why is that liar George Kliavkoff not looking at the same thing for the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the leadership of other conferences are like vultures. I mean, they obviously are following everything that happens with George Kliavkoff and the PAC, and I think that it's painfully obvious what's happening here and what Kliavkoff is trying to do. And again, we're just this little YouTube show over here, talking about it. Like, these guys have the information. These guys are like plugged in. These guys know the numbers. So you're telling me with the information that they have access to and with the knowledge they have about what Kliavkoff said, and they probably have some firsthand accounts of it as well. Like, come on, dude. Like, they know what's happening. So that's why this conversation sparks up every time Kliavkoff, decides to write a letter or to, run on about a bunch of garbage at his media day. Like, they can see the writing on the wall. And that's why I think that when you are the ACC, you knew that they were sort of a sleeping giant in the merger space, because they've been sitting over there just waiting and watching Zion break his Nikes and watching great things happen in basketball and some average things happen in football. But they know, hey, if we can merge, if we can make more money, we're open to that concept. We're open to that idea. And I have to say, I do like the setup of the ACC and the Pac-12 specifically merging, because then you get East Coast, you get West Coast, you get you get a nice setup. And yeah, I think it's everything you want as a sports fan. So I don't know. I don't know. My only reservation about it is merging. You would have to figure it out with George, I think, right? I mean, you'd have to, he'd be your partner in that.
He would be, but this goes back to the discussion we've had for so long about Big 12 versus Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I just don't know how you look at the Pac-12 as a more inviting partner than the Big 12. Even without Texas and Oklahoma, how do you not view what Kansas is doing? How are you, the ACC, a basketball powerhouse, not looking at the Big 12, who I think is the best basketball conference in the country, frankly? How are you not looking at the Big 12 as a far more attractive partner than the Pac-12?
Yeah.
What does the Pac-12 bring to you? Because to your credit, Jake, you're the one that's always saying, well, they've got to stop talking about the Conference of Champions. And
yeah.
I agree with you. They continue, in George Kliavkoff, in part of this letter that he wrote to the UC Board of Regents, talked about, this great conference with heritage and history. And I just don't see that. I don't see, when I look at the Pac-12, and again, I'm open to the idea that there's probably some bias in my opinion now that I just look at George Kliavkoff as a complete, I think the guy is just plain and simply, I think the guy's a liar. And I don't trust anything that he says.
Yeah.
But I look at the history of the Pac-12, nobody cares what you did in water polo, frankly. And I understand gymnastics is important. And I understand that all these secondary sports are important. Did you win championships in football and basketball? Because that's what pays the bills. And they have not. When is the last time the Pac-12 has been relevant in anything? I can point to the Big 12 and I can tell you, hey, Baylor's a national champion. I can tell you that Kansas, and I can tell you that Texas and Oklahoma, and there are all kinds of storylines all over the Big 12. I can't say the same thing about the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why this is such rocket science, that when you look at the Pac-12 as a conference, why is it so hard to understand that the Pac-12 is not a conference of champions?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here is that George, so part of it is that George is doing his job as commissioner, right? Because again, it has to be said, what else would you expect, the commissioner of a conference to say? I mean, he's obviously is not going to come out and say they're a dog crap conference. I mean, right? That's just a little unrealistic.
You're not going to do that.
You're not going to do that. But I also think that you can't, as bad as you would look as a commissioner running that garbage out there about how your conference sucks, I think you also look bad when you sit here and you're like, yeah, our conference is amazing and everything's neat and we've been, in business for 100 years and we're, we've got all these titles, and you're consistently sitting here trying to just spin how great you are. I don't think that you can just do that over and over again and think that people are going to continue to believe you. That's the problem I have with it. Like, at some point you have to kind of come to the middle a little bit and realize that while, yeah, you do have some heritage, you're still the Pac-12. What have you done for me lately? I mean, this is what I say about USC all the time. And we've had great debates on this show about USC. Like, I've always been of the mindset that USC is all hype and hasn't done it on the football field since Reggie Bush and Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
But now, and this is kind of where it kind of comes back around, now, because you brought in Lincoln and you brought in, all that talent, you are good. You are doing it on the football field. So that's why I say, if you're going to sit here and talk about how great the conference is and how, you're the best thing since sliced bread, you have to back it up at some point. And that's what I think George doesn't understand. And so when we look at this expansion stuff and you have, you have the leadership of the ACC texting and coming up with names for what a super conference could be, like, at some point you have to understand that these guys are going to see opportunity and they're going to jump on it, and they want to make money and they want to grow their brand, because let's be honest, the ACC in football isn't exactly the best conference in the land. Basketball is a different story. They got basketball on lock, but in football, you're not really anything to write home about outside of Clemson. So that's why I think that this whole thing about George constantly being over positive and overvaluing things is a problem, because it makes him look like an idiot.
And look at this statement, and I think this is significant. He writes, as a conference, we were extremely surprised and disappointed by UCLA's decision to leave for the Big Ten. The Pac-12 has and here's the part that's amazing, the Pac-12 has a storied tradition of more than 100 years marked by athletic and academic excellence. And UCLA has been integral to that success, to that excellence, as a very successful member of the Pac-12, winning 119 team NCAA titles, second only to the Pac-12 Stanford University across 20 sports. When is the last time UCLA was truly relevant in football? When was the last time? And if you talk about those 119 team NCAA championships, are you, and this is what I say about George Kliavkoff. You look at that statement, is that really a genuine statement? Is that really, is the 119 team championships from UCLA, go Bruins?
Yeah.
With 13 fans at the Rose Bowl last weekend.
Yeah.
Are you really relevant?
Well, and I just can't, so like that sentiment, the 119, are you telling me that George Kliavkoff really believes that when he writes it?
No.
No way,
chance.
dude. No way is it lost on George Kliavkoff that UCLA and frankly Stanford and for
Cal?
being blunt, Cal, SC, like
Arizona,
like I'm not trying to be an a-hole here, but most of your conference outside of Oregon, Utah, I guess if you
Colorado, look how bad Colorado
is the embarrassment in college football right now. So that's why I say when he writes a letter like this, he says the things he says, and then somehow has some expectation of the conference surviving. I have to agree, this is as bad as Larry Scott was in a different way, but at the same level. So I don't know, man. I think that, yeah, you got to take the escape hatch that is the merger with the ACC at some point, or I think you're probably not around.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's get some of your thoughts in here. A lot of people in on the betting question.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. And the question was, do you guys pay attention to lines?
Yeah.
Diesel D says, yes, I pay attention.
Diesel D,
the D, says, yes, I pay attention. Alex Chacon says, did you just call him our guy? Facetiously, I called Donnie our guy.
Donnie, please.
Yeah. Boyd Lake says, are you good football program when you can only get a few hundred fans to your games? No. Boyd also says betting lines are a good data point. They're an excellent data point.
Totally agree.
Wow, look at Cody Strickland says, I got 6 tickets from the window. Arlington Bear says, I play a parlay or two when I'm in Vegas. So do I. That's exactly right, Arlington Bears.
Right.
Mrs. Monty is usually better at closing her eyes and throwing darts at a wall and making parlays that win than I ever am. That is legitimately,
Wow.
dude, it's legitimately how Mrs. Monty bets the ponies. She's like, oh, Diesel D, that's a cool name for a horse.
Yeah, nice horse.
Yeah, but I don't like that it's got a pink eyelash on. We're going with Jimmy's rectum from the four post. Like, that's legit how she wins, and it's funny, actually. JP says, watch line shift. That's how you can kill it. Diesel D says, Monty, I did not know Utah does it all gambling. That's amazing. Yeah, I know. It is amazing. Eric and Raleigh says the ACC won't be worth merging into after Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and Notre Dame are no longer associated with the ACC. But I think what's interesting is the ACC, with their incredibly expensive grant of rights, has a little bit of control. And I think what's so interesting about this sourcing, and I'll put this graphic back up here because I think it matters. The News and Observer obtained text messages amongst administrators at UNC through a Freedom of Information Act, and their athletic director, Bubba Cunningham, straight up texts to the chancellor, should we explore a partnership with the Big 12 or the Pac-12? And the chancellor came back with, yeah, let's call it the Athletic Pacific Athletic Conference, the APAC.
Let's settle this right now.
This is what George Kliavkoff should be doing.
Okay.
Right?
Sorry, did you say George Kliavkoff?
I believe that's the proper pronunciation of his name.
Pause, bro. Pause.
Am I wrong?
Bro.
What?
Okay.
Look, I'm just trying to pay the guys respect. Eric and Raleigh says, George Molotov. Oh, it's Molotov.
George Molotov. Got it.
Molotov.
Got it.
Is going to burn down the Pac-12 entirely. I don't disagree with that. Clemson is the ACC in football. That's
Agreed.
Jesse Harsh says. That's why we call it the already crowned Clemson Conference.
Yeah.
The first time I ever said that on ESPN, there was a mass reaction of frustration from other ACC members who then eventually came around. Because it's true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true.
She took offense.
She did, Alex Chacon says, Washington is playing like they are trying to catch the attention of the Big Ten. It's about time. About time. Patrick Bourne, what's up, Patrick? Says, bum, 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 bum. The slow drum roll and march to the grave is the new DOA, a.k.a. PAC. Seriously.
How about that?
They're dead on arrival, man. I'm telling you. Coach Loverin, what's up? He says, Diesel D, UW hasn't played a road game in the fourth quarter versus MSU wasn't great. We'll see. Anyway. Kanai Johnson says, if there was only 12 fans in the arena, my daughter's junior high basketball team has 3 or 4 times that in the audience. I mean, you can go back and check the tape. You're right. It wasn't 12. I actually, if we're being honest, let's not George Kliavkoff jerk off face thing about the number of people at the Rose Bowl. It was actually 36.
Sometimes, okay, maybe.
The security guards. I forgot to count the security guards. They count as fans.
Right.
There were 36 people. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Even Troy Aikman, the great Oklahoma quitter transfer quarterback to UCLA, tweeted a photo of it and was like, this is embarrassing.
Yes.
It's embarrassing.
Yes.
You should be better than this.
Yes.
You should be better than this. And they're not. It's remarkable to me that you struggle so hard to make money. And you're talking about how you need to make money. Oh, I'm telling you, this conference needs to make more money. Maybe they should go to TryDayTrading.com/Monty.
I agree.
If they want to make more money, maybe that's what they should do. TryDayTrading.com/Monty is where UCLA and all other fans go when they want to get off the side hustle grind. Stop flipping through the book of like, okay, well, I tried doTERRA. Mary Kay was fun. The chicks were hot, but I didn't make any money. The lipstick's far too expensive. Get off the side hustle grind, bro, and get to TryDayTrading.com/Monty and learn how to day trade because it's a legitimate path to financial freedom. And the best part is it costs you nothing. You go to TryDayTrading.com/Monty, register for the free webinar. All you do is watch the webinar and make a decision. If it's not for you or if you feel like it's not a good fit or no matter what, you're done. You're out. No obligation. You don't have to continue. But do yourself the favor of getting to trydaytrading.com/Monty and watching the free webinar. No matter where you are, the guys at Tri-Day Trading, Ryan and the guys, they're located right here in Lehi, Utah, but they're a national company. You can absolutely, if you're in Texas, Poughkeepsie, if you're in Fantasyland with George Kliavkoff, you can absolutely go to trydaytrading.com/Monty and watch the free webinar and make a decision, because day trading is not only a legitimate side hustle, you can scale it and it can become your career so that you can have the financial freedom that you have been grinding for all those years through all those wasted side hustles. Trydaytrading.com/Monty is your fix. Trydaytrading.com/Monty. Tell me you heard about it on the Monty Show. Thanks to our guys at Tri-Day Trading. It has been so fun hearing. And if you do, by the way, please DM me. Tell me about your experience, because I've talked to so many of our listeners, Jake, who have gone through the webinar and they're like, I had no idea that I don't trade with my money right out of the gate. I use Tri-Day Trading's money.
Yes.
That seems to be the number one thing that people are surprised about, that legitimately the first trades, the way you learn to day trade is by spending their money.
Yes.
And if you make money using Tri-Day Trading's money, they give you 50% of the profit. Like, that's how confident they are that they can teach you how to be an elite day trader.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's awesome. It is legit and it works. Trydaytrading.com/Monty. It is 7:20 on the Monty Show. Talking about the Big 12 or the Pac-12. Let's get into which is a better conference, because coming up here in 10 minutes, we're going to get to BYU and their running game problems. Utah at Arizona State, I think, is the trap game of the year so far. But Big 12 versus Pac-12, I don't see how the Pac-12 has a case here. If we're talking about recent success,
right?
I mean, you have to look at the Big 12 in football.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at current member Texas. Look at the hell of a fight they put up against Alabama. Sure, they lost the game. You look at Baylor winning national championships in basketball. You look at the strength of the Big 12 across the board athletically. I don't even think it's a conversation, Jake. I think the Big 12 is a far stronger conference than the Pac-12.
Yeah, I think that the Big 12 has more staying power, absolutely. I think that, the Pac-12 is fortunate that Utah and Oregon have been good recently, as far as the college football playoff is concerned. They've been representing the conference well. But the problem comes in when you start to look across the board. When you look at basketball, the Pac-12 hasn't exactly been lighting it up, and the Big 12 has. I mean, the Big 12 is perhaps, the strongest basketball conference in the land, and I think that absolutely matters because, it's great that Alabama is the juggernaut in football that they are, but what happens when you're not playing football? How else can we make money? And that's where I think the Big 12 has the upper hand on some of these conferences. Again, I'm not saying that the Big 12 is better at football than the SEC, because certainly they're not. But I think when you step away from football and you're just like, okay, when I look at the major money makers in college sports, it's obviously football and basketball. You get a little bit from baseball, but other than that, those are the two workhorses that make you the money. And so that's why I say I do think that the Big 12 is a better value. That said, they don't have Los Angeles. They don't have, the Pacific Northwest. They don't have these amazing geographical locations. And that, to me, has always been the crying shame that is the PAC, like the Pac-10, the Pac-12, is that you have these great cities. You have the Bay Area and Stanford. You have Los Angeles on multiple levels, South Central. You have UCLA, obviously. Like, you have all these great opportunities, and yet you sit here and just waste them repeatedly.
But
and that, to me, is crazy.
But look at the bottom of the Big 12.
Yeah.
West Virginia. Right now, today, and I'm just going based on current standings.
Yes.
West Virginia, Texas Tech, Texas, K-State. Those are the bottom four teams in the Big 12. So if I look at the top of the Big 12, does anybody even realize what's going on at Kansas for football?
No.
Does anybody realize that Kansas is 3-0 and that Kansas is selling out their football games?
What now? Let me tell you what now.
Bill Self has done a lovely job getting the running game going at Kansas. He has got his high-octane offense. Bill Self, he's the basketball. Never mind. It's probably a bad joke. They've beaten Tennessee Tech, West Virginia, and Houston. So it's not a fluke, right? I look at this. What that tells me is the bottom of the Big 12 has flipped on itself. And you look at Kansas undefeated, Iowa State undefeated, Oklahoma undefeated, Oklahoma State undefeated. How did Oklahoma State fall a spot in the rankings, by the way? You look at TCU actually having a nice bounce-back season so far. Now, is it worth much when TCU has beat Colorado, who's terrible? Now, the mighty Tarleton, I don't even know what do you know the Tarleton mascot? I think they are the
Tarleton?
The catfish hook nets. Crawfish guys.
Bro, what?
I have no idea what is Tarleton's mascot?
Who the f*** is that guy?
The Tarleton Texans.
Hey, look here, man.
What a game that was. They're ranked number 1, and Tarleton is highly ranked number 1 in our hearts and minds.
Oh, he don't know nothing.
I don't know that they should be playing anybody in football, but you know,
good talk.
They did hold TCU to 59 points. Anyway,
yes,
the point is,
yes, you did.
The point is, the Big 12 looks good right now.
You see what I mean? This is what you're talking about in the Big 12. You don't have SC and Stanford and like Washington and like these major nameplate universities. That's the problem.
Yeah, yes, Boyd Lake. Kansas beats Duke. Exactly. Yes, Patrick Bourne. Kansas beats Duke. Exactly right. Let's see. M. Morris says global warming is killing UCLA's football program. That must be it. Or is it that your stadium at the Rose Bowl is in somebody's backyard legitimately in the middle of a neighborhood that nobody can get to, and it's not close to campus? Westwood and Pasadena aren't exactly neighbors, and that UCLA needs an on-campus football stadium. That's an issue. And when you're average, and holy Bob Toledo is probably as good as Chip Kelly's been, Chip's been a disappointment. Why am I going to go to a UCLA football game right now?
What I just said.
I'm not. But if you bring in Ohio State, now all of a sudden the Rose Bowl looks a little rosier.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I look at the bottom of the Pac-12 and argue if you like. I just ask you, with what we said about the Big 12, you look at the Big 12 and how strong they have started this season in football.
Yeah.
I simply ask you, make the same case for the Pac-12, because I don't think I can. Stanford, Colorado, Arizona State are garbage. They're bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. I look at the undefeated teams. USC is legitimate. That's the best offense in the country. They lost another defensive end this week in practice, so it'll be interesting to see how much that hurts them. But
yeah,
right now, USC is a darling. Caleb's probably going to win the Heisman Trophy.
Yep.
USC's national championship caliber right now.
They got it going.
Oregon State, 3-0. They can beat anybody. UCLA, I don't know. I don't know. UCLA's offense is very good, but we're going to find out. Washington, surprising, but Washington hasn't played a road game yet. Washington State, Arizona, surprising, right? Arizona, I would say what Arizona's done, they're 2-1. But they can't stop anybody, and they don't score enough.
Yeah.
Y'all feel me?
They're not good. Cal's not good. Or I don't know what to make of Oregon. You're right. Bo Nick's got to go on the road and win a game.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon, the fact is Oregon is good. Oregon's good. They're not great, but they're good. You know, that's what Oregon is.
I think this is not even a discussion. I think the Big 12 is a far, far better conference than the Pac-12. I don't know. What say you in the comments?
Yeah.
Josh Lovren says, good Kansas football is like seeing Haley's comment once every 150 years. I go check it out because my future grandchildren's kids will be next people in our family to see good Kansas football. Wow. Wow.
Cold-blooded.
Look, Haley's comment, you know.
Haley's comment?
I was trying to be funny, and I'm not. Boyd Lake says Kansas's offense is rolling there. I'm telling you, Kansas is legitimately good.
Yeah, they can play some football, man.
What they're building at Kansas is not a fluke.
Yeah.
Like, they play actual legitimate football. So who wants the bottom of the pack over the bottom of the Big 12? Nobody. Nobody, as I just so succinctly surmised.
Yeah, as I laid out in a flow chart.
Yeah. Let's see. Simon says Kansas State's going to upset Oklahoma and Norman. Maybe. We'll see.
But that comment right there, not to interrupt you, in Norman, where's Norman?
Oklahoma.
You see what I'm saying?
Oklahoma.
Like, with all due respect to Oklahomans or whatever you refer to yourself as, like, come on, dude.
What's wrong with Norman, Oklahoma?
Nothing's wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just not Los Angeles. It's not the Bay Area.
You talk about Norman like it's a kidney infection, man.
I'm screwed.
Why would you say such a hurtful thing and stuff? Anyway, the point is, Norman's a very respectable football market.
Mm-hmm.
It's got, like, look, George Kliavkoff, jerkface, even said it. They've got history and tradition. Barry Switzer and guns in the airport aren't coming through that door anytime soon.
It's really unfair.
And Brian Bosworth with, B12 in that syringe, I'm sure.
Okay, are you okay?
You do not know? Okay, I'm sorry.
Are you okay, dude?
My bad.
You're welcome.
Nothing that happened before 2017 exists to millennials.
Yeah.
Oklahoma used to be, and Bob Stoops, Little Kyler, Lincoln Riley, verticality.
Yeah.
You're not following me here, are you?
No.
Okay, the point is, Oklahoma has a great football tradition.
You think you know it all.
I mean, what about Stacey King and the Oklahoma Sooners basketball team? Okay, I'll move on. These young kids these days, friends. Patrick Bourne says, Monty, you're correct. Cannot truly evaluate college football in the first 3 non-conference games. Wait till the next 3, then let's talk. Yeah, look at those SEC teams we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Mike P says, last time I checked, Alabama hot too. Like temperature-wise, yeah, it's hot in the South right now. Humidity will go down. Is that what you meant? I'm going to move on. I'm in that mood where I feel like being awkward today.
Okay.
Good, I don't understand it.
Happen, Tonto.
Patrick Bourne says my bias is Big 12 is better. Are you sure with that Baylor logo? I didn't understand.
What?
By the way, does Baylor does Baylor football come back to earth this year? This week's going to be a big test for Baylor. So we'll see. All right. It is 7:32. The biggest stories in sports this morning. George Kliavkoff, who I frankly feel like, and I don't even think it's that much of a stretch, I feel like George Kliavkoff outright lied to the UC Board of Regents yesterday. And it continues a trend of George Kliavkoff being a manipulative, lying, disingenuous jerk. Mm-hmm. And I think he has not been an upgrade to Larry Scott. I think when you tell the UC Board of Regents that, hey, the travel cost is going to be massive and it's going to cause depression and brain damage to Pac-12 athletes, which he legitimately said, and you don't tell them, well, UCLA has made it pretty clear that they're going to charter, that their plan is to charter, and you don't talk about the fact that they're going to have vast more marketing rights. You talk about how they're going to lose money, but you don't detail how they're going to lose money or how and you go on the Canzano podcast and the Wilner Canzano podcast, and I mean, quite literally, I think you say the words, hey, I just wrote it on the back of it. Like, even though he was tongue-in-cheek about it, he has no information to back up the stats that he's putting out.
Yeah, I mean that's what he's doing. I mean, it's so clear that he's playing the PR game and playing the media cycle game, and he somehow thinks that that's going to work out for him. But I don't know, man. I'm a big believer that when you do stuff like this, it always comes back around. And I don't know what that's going to look like for the conference. I don't know if like what the Board of Regents is going to do about UCLA. My guess is they're probably not going to do a whole hell of a lot because I got to think that they do have numbers on what UCLA has spent, and also we know, I think it was like 2 weeks ago that the Board of Regents didn't do themselves any favors when they were talking about the whole situation. They made themselves look pretty stupid. So it just I think you have to decide what to do to UCLA, and then we got to move on from this.
Yeah, because I think it's damaging to everybody.
Yeah,
at this point you are, and this is the thing that Jerkface doesn't understand. Like, you're the commissioner of the Pac-12, guy. You're damaging every one of the institutions in your program by lying.
I'm Shiva, the god of death.
You are. You're damaging every program in that conference by manipulating John Canzano on his podcast, and look, I understand John Wilner and John Canzano are desperate. They need the Pac-12 to survive, to be relevant. I totally understand that. They didn't ask a single follow-up question. That was a hit piece by Jerkface.
Yeah.
That was him going on that podcast, spreading lies and misinformation with nothing to back it up.
Yeah.
And when you say to those guys, hey, my back of the envelope mathematics.
Yeah.
You're literally saying, well, I pulled out a pencil, wrote on the back of an envelope what was in my mind. Like you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And you're an embarrassment to college football.
Yeah.
You're an embarrassment to college athletics. And I understand that, like, Josh Lovren, you're completely wrong with this comment. People in Norman go to football games. People in LA don't go to UCLA, USC, Rams, and the Chargers were playing in a soccer stadium. If you look at USC games, attendance at USC football is pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
They've been bad for a long time. Did people go to Washington football games when they were terrible? Do people go to any sporting event when the team is terrible? They do not. When USC football is competitive, they go. The Coliseum is a great building to watch college football in. It is a legitimate home field advantage. And as far as San Diego, who plays in LA and rents a stadium from the Rams, Chargers, when they were playing at the Home Depot Center or whatever it's called now for their home games, it was a temporary fix until a stadium situation was resolved. To me, football's not number one in LA. The beach, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, like all the other stuff you can do in LA, the best Mexican food ever.
Little club called the Dodgers.
That's all better. LA's never going to be UCLA's town. But that doesn't mean that there's not value in it. That doesn't mean that UCLA shouldn't build a stadium on their campus, because that's what they need.
Yeah.
They need something. You're not going to get that by staying in the Pac-12, and they know it. That truly is the bottom line.
Yeah.
I think with BYU and Utah, these two games are interesting in that the lines are massive this week. BYU is a 21.5 point home favorite over the Wyoming Cowboys.
The Wyoming Cowboys.
Saturday, 8:15 on ESPN2. And I think the biggest question here is not can they cover the 21.5.
Mm-hmm.
What's the run game going to look like? And I think one of the more interesting questions about BYU's run game is, when does Pini Katoa start getting the number ones?
Mm-hmm.
When does he start getting the big carries? Because I don't know how long BYU can afford, especially with the wide receiver situation, the injuries with Gunner and Puka. How long can BYU afford to sputter in the ground game? I don't think for long.
Yeah.
The schedule does not get easier. It gets more difficult. You're going into, Utah State, Notre Dame, Arkansas. Like, you got to run the football. And BYU to this point has just not been able to be competent at that. And I don't know, like, I've watched a lot of tape on Christopher Brooks now to start the season. He's not a guy that hits the hole with authority, but
yeah,
I think the O-line, I don't think they know what to expect. And I think they're overplaying their position on the offensive line. And what I mean by that is, I don't think they're comfortable with Christopher Brooks in the backfield yet.
Uh-huh.
So when you know what you're getting, you're going to do your job every time, because you know, hey, if I can turn this defensive end, Chris is going to run right by me.
Right.
I don't think they know that. I don't think Christopher Brooks is comfortable when a play is designed to go through the B gap or it's a counter. I don't think he's comfortable with that yet, because he's been in the system for less than a year. For really, if we're being honest, you've been in the system for a month, actually playing in live fire games.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of time to get comfortable with your running game. And I think you're seeing the price that's being paid for that. And I think you need to start playing the depth on this running game, and you need to see who's going to get the job done, because right now Christopher Brooks has not done the job for BYU, and the schedule is growing short. We are already, can you guys believe that today is September 23rd?
Yeah. It's moving.
We are a week away from October. I said we're a week. Hey, man, Halloween is 40 days away?
Yeah.
I hate Halloween. Halloween is, my wife is so upset I said that. Well, it's not that I hate Halloween.
Whatever.
I hate trick-or-treaters. I mean, kids should be seen, not heard. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Totally
explain
kidding.
that?
Yeah, don't get crazy. I would just much rather you take the candy bar and you don't ring the
get off
doorbell
my porch.
Yeah, don't piss the
Get
dogs
off my porch.
Look, I'm trying to sleep. I actually spend money on Halloween. I give out like the full candy bar. Why are we talking about this? The point is,
I don't know.
Grandpa Monty over here
Yeah.
doesn't like all the
Get off
kids
my
ringing
lawn.
the doorbell because every time the dog barks, a little pee comes out.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, I give out full candy bars. You should say, thank you, sir. May I have another?
Yeah, kind of like BYU gives out 2.5 yards a carry most weeks.
Okay. That was a good transition back to football.
Thank you.
My point is, I think BYU wins this game handily. Wyoming's offense is not good. Their quarterback is wildly erratic. Their defense is what it is. I think BYU scores 45 points and gives up 10.
Yeah, and I think the danger in not getting the run game established this week is that the schedule is short. You are heading to more difficult opponents, and not being able to run the football makes you one-dimensional, which again leads to 10 guys in the box, single high safety. Can't run the football, going to be tough to complete the intermediate pass. Like, that's what happens on the football field to BYU. And so, again, you need to be 4 or 5 yards a carry if you want to be successful running the football. And if the simple truth is, if Christopher Brooks is not comfortable in the scheme, is doesn't know where that hole should be, or just isn't like fluid with it yet, then fine, put Peeny in there. Like, do it. Like, this is kind of that. And again, I don't mean to come off like questioning Kalani, but you can't be nice to these guys. Like you need to put the guy in there who is going to give you the best chance to win the game. Like Aaron Roderick essentially said that earlier in the week. Like, hey, if dudes aren't executing on their route running, I'm going to put in whoever I need to put in, and that to me, is just how football has to work. You have to be, rather cold-blooded about it. It's a business, bro.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest stories in sports this morning, presented by our good friends at Barbecue Pit Stop, bbqpitstop.com. Make sure that you guys get to their website, bbqpitstop.com. And the cool thing about the website at Barbecue Pit Stop, bbqpitstop.com, is you can actually chat with them online. If you live in Poughkeepsie, Lehigh, wherever, go to barbecuepitstop.com and say, hey, I heard about you guys on the Monty Show. Did I mention I heard about you guys on the Monty Show?
Yes.
The Monty Show?
Just say it over and over again.
The Monty Show.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm doing a brisket on the smoker this week for the tailgate, and I'm curious, do I need to wrap that and put it in a cooler when I'm done? Hey, how long should I let it rest? Hey, do I need to cure my wings? They'll answer all your questions for you. And by the way, find one of Barbecue Pit Stop's 5 Utah locations from St. George, Logan, Layton, Lehigh, and of course our good friends in Salt Lake City. They're the best guys to deal with. It was great to see them last Saturday when we had the BYU watch party. The cool thing is not only does Barbecue Pit Stop have all of that equipment, but all the rubs and spices, like Chris Karn, our guy, Arlington Bears, we were telling him, hey, you got to get this Italian spice. You got to get this Italian spice. Go to Barbecue Pit
Italian.
Stop. He goes in and they're sold out of it. They don't have it anymore.
Where's the Italian?
So, of course, they put him into another spice. That's the cool thing at Barbecue Pit Stop. If you go in there and say, hey, I'm looking for an Italian chop house, they're going to either give it to you or give you an alternative. They're going to have all your best spices, all your best equipment. That's why you count on Barbecue Pit Stop, bbqpitstop.com. Find them in Layton, Lehigh, Logan, Salt Lake City, and St. George, or shop online at barbecuepitstop.com. Let's get some of your comments in here because I see everybody furiously talking about West Virginia. Yeah, Mrs. Monty and I were watching that game a little bit last night after Pittsburgh completely failed me again. I'm telling you, it's not. Mitch Trubisky is not the problem in Pittsburgh. Anyway, the point is, we flipped on. How about West Virginia?
Yeah,
that was actually a fun game to watch.
Yeah,
it was actually a fun game to watch. Tom Basilius, you say chop house, finger gun chop house, not flying home with the team after a lost chop house. Okay.
Okay.
You know. San Diego State Aztec says wrap the brisket and rest it overnight in a cooler. That was free info, by the way. Wow. I love that.
Did you get that info out of Snapdragon Stadium?
Okay, take it easy. Nobody wins games at Snapdragon Stadium. Dadgummit. Larry Pilgrim says, saw the thumbnail. Academics to the ACC is important, and the Big 12 is looked down on when it comes to academics. Not happening, and saying being left behind isn't a good retort. Well, This is a long conversation about academics.
Yeah.
I think when you add Cincinnati, BYU, Central Florida, and Houston, your academics automatically get better. I mean, even if it's just BYU alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily buy the argument that, well, those boys in Stillwater, all they know is how to shovel manure and win football games.
This is corny stuff.
I mean, they're not a research institution other than fecal matter.
Other than fecal matter.
They research horse poop.
You and your mom are hillbillies.
You know, yeah. Like you and your mom are hillbillies. Your degree doesn't mean anything. Here in Chapel Hill, here in Durham, we make doctors. You guys make poop sandwiches.
Right. Cow patties.
We can't have you in our fine Atlantic Coast Conference.
Right.
That's what I hate.
Yeah.
And it's what the Pac-12 has been guilty of for so long. Oh, well, we can't have BYU. Those Mormons in their magic underpants.
Which they're not.
Right? Like, I mean, that's what it always is.
Yeah.
Well,
there's always something.
Let me look down my nose. Oh, nobody want Manhattan, Kansas.
And he will every single time.
Wait, is that close to Brooklyn? What about Queens? Like, that's what you are. That's what you're doing when you say, well, academics, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Wake Forest, we put out, this is a house of learned doctors. That's one of the greatest movie lines ever. This is a house of learned doctors.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's Step Brothers, for anybody who doesn't know. I did not do math before the show, I promise.
Okay.
I just don't like the look down your nose thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. San Diego State Aztec says Halloween, major opportunity to get Reese's and not be sorry. That's correct. Boyd Lake says Grandpa Monty could get some Depends. Just saying. Look.
Good.
Yeah, but that caused chafing.
Okay. Chafing?
What? You know, Jeff Johnson agrees with me. I hate Halloween. Biggest waste of money ever for everything. And then they smash your pumpkins.
Okay, what's your favorite candy bar?
Oh, stop it. Snickers, and it ain't close.
Okay.
Although I will say it is close. Eating the caramel off the top of a Twix bar to throw out the cookie pisses off Mrs. Monty. That's why I do it.
And I ain't giving up no damn Rice Krispie
So
treats.
it brings Mrs. Monty and I closer together.
Right, you guys are able to bond over that moment.
And you know all those cool videos on Instagram where like you dumpster dive and there's raccoons in there?
Right.
That's Mrs. Monty chasing after the Twix cookie when I throw it out.
I'm for real.
I just made that whole thing up right off the top of my head. Snickers is the best candy bar ever. Although I do enjoy eating a fresh Twix bar where you can eat the stuff off the top like it's a harmonica. Ah!
Are we clear on that?
I have no idea. I don't know where this
Oh
comes.
my God,
you know what it
dude.
is? Mrs. Monty made me go to bed on time. I took a cold, not cold, but like a chilly shower before bed last night. Mrs. Monty did it right. And then she turned on the fan and opened the windows, so we slept in cold. It was amazing. I woke up, my knee didn't hurt anymore today. Like, it's amazing. I slept really well.
Okay.
I visited Nighttime Pea Guy one time because I drank a full cup of water before bed last night. Like an idiot. But other than that, oh, dude, I had such a near miss with the aim and Nighttime Pea Guy last night. Man, do you know how hard it is to get up in the middle of the night in the dark? And I use a toilet bowl light.
Okay.
I don't know how we got here.
Link in the description. Click on it.
Yeah, dummy. But I use a toilet bowl light, so I don't have to turn on the bathroom light. Right. I did one of those. You know when you're going to the bathroom and you're way to the right, and you just do one of those yank the fire hose moves, and you're like, ugh! Like, was one of the greatest saves ever.
What the fuck are you, Ranger Rick?
I am Ranger Rick. It was like you're just sitting there, and frankly, it's two hands, and you're just like, ah, and it's boom, and you hear it in the water, and you put your head, and you're like, okay,
started out great, but then we got momentum going. And
woo, that was awesome. Went right back to bed, and the odd thing is, I was like, oh man, you know what happened? I missed, so I flipped on the lights, not a drop.
I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss,
Flipped off, hit the flush, flipped off the light, went back to sleep. Woke up right on time.
You know.
4:12, like it was nobody's business.
That was truly incredible.
Yeah, you know.
Wow.
Edwin says, sounds like you need a mattress sponsor on the show.
Dude.
Yeah. New York Jazz fan says, love sleeping in the cold. Leave the windows open.
Yes.
I'm telling you, a life hack is get a woman that will cuddle with you under the blanket. Although I did hotbox Mrs. Monty.
Okay, you hotboxed Mrs. Monty.
I may have had a little gas last night.
That juices is not all over the place.
Who hasn't done that, though? Who has not done that, though? But I'm telling you, get a woman who will sleep with the window open and the fan on. We have a really nice one of those oversized blankets on our bed.
Right.
Ooh, winter brings the weighted blanket back. It's going to be amazing. Anyway, sleep with the fan on and the window open, and life is good.
I hate the blanket we have right now.
Yeah, it's probably too big and it's stretchy.
No, it's it's stretchy.
Yeah.
So like when I'm trying to get out from under the blanket, like it just keeps, it's the never-ending pull. It just keeps stretching, so like you never reach the end of it.
I will say the other morning when I was trying to get out of bed because I'm always dehydrated because I'm fat.
Right.
But the point is, I was trying to get out of bed and my toe got caught on our blanket. Oh my God, the calf cramp was.
Y'all feel me?
Caused a calf. And you're right. We have one of those big oversized blankets. Like we have a California king size bed.
Right.
And the blanket is too big for the bed. Like it's that big.
Size does matter.
Well, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
The point is.
Y'all feel me?
The point is, I caught my big toe on that blanket and oh my God. Like,
all wrong.
Life stopped. I saw my calf muscle
and as
flash.
You can see, I'm going through some shit right now.
I saw my calf muscle flash before my eyes.
Right.
You never move more quickly than when you have a calf cramp. I mean, your twitch muscles are like engaged.
What are the people saying?
Leg cramps are the worst.
Dude.
You know, Larry Pilgrim says, agree to disagree on some things, but you guys are 100% very entertaining. Thank you. We try. Monty, San Diego State Aztec says, Monty, what was the kid who would open the window on the bus ride to school in the winter and the other kids would scream at him? Oh, my God.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
Tanner says, winter's going to bring the weighted blanket back. Well, that depends on if we have a good winter this year. We're supposed to. And I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now, when you look at what the El Nino does or La Nina or what have you,
it's the fucking vernal equinox.
Yeah, and I am well, but you're not wrong, right? You are not wrong.
Yeah.
But what it certainly does is not help me find the graphic that I need.
What are you doing?
What the vernal equinox does is bring football at 50 to the wintertime.
Dun, 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 dun.
If I could have found the stupid graphic, I would have done that earlier. Football at 50, 10 of the hour, every hour, presented by our good friends at Papa Murphy's Pizza. PapaMurphys.com. Download the app. I'm going to do it right after the show.
We get pizza tonight.
We get pizza tonight.
Hell
it's
yeah.
Friday night.
Let's
Absolutely.
go.
We will get the Papa Murphy's Pizza on
Let's
the smoker.
go.
And you know what? Pictures or it didn't happen? Yes. Video on the Insta Snap Face machine. Absolutely find me on Twitter and Instagram, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. Is Mitch Trubisky the problem with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I don't know that he's the whole problem. I mean, certainly you could always have a better quarterback, but what no one wants to admit is that Trubisky's good enough to get you by. Trubisky's good enough to win you games, you know? Like, I think that what I don't like to say is, hey, Mitch is terrible and he's the reason you lose games. Like, I think at some point you have to kind of come to the middle on it and say, yeah, he isn't the best thing ever, but he's also not the worst quarterback in the league. You know, it's very much in the, Jimmy G logic. Like, Jimmy G's better than Mitch Trubisky, but we can all agree that Jimmy G's not the reason they won a Super Bowl.
No, I would agree with that. Football 50 presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza. I think watching that game last night, you have a serious continuity problem on offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm thrilled for Cleveland Browns fans because what happened with Deshaun Watson, what happened with Chaboy, Baker Mayfield, all of this turmoil. Yeah, there you go. There he is. All this turmoil. Jacoby Brissett actually played pretty good football last night.
Yeah.
I do still maintain Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL. And I'm happy for Cleveland Brown fans because they deserve a little light in their life.
Yeah.
By the way, did you guys see Cleveland Browns owner Jimmy Haslam get pegged with a water bottle? Well, he got hit in the head. He didn't get pegged.
He got
hit in
pegged
the head.
with a water bottle.
In the head. Last week they arrested that fan and charged him with assault, by the way. Speaking of conferences merging, did anybody notice that Amazon Prime and Nielsen released the numbers for week 1? 15 million people watched Thursday Night Football week 1 on Amazon Prime.
Who's surprised?
I'm shocked.
Why?
Because 15 million people.
Why are you surprised?
That's a ton of people.
Yeah, but why is it? Why am I not surprised? Because you don't have to have DirecTV. You don't have to have Dish Network, right? Like that's the difference. It's on people's phones.
I think when you look at these numbers, and I'm looking up Monday Night Football ratings, you look at these numbers.
Dude, 15 million people is a drop in the bucket for a company that's got, I think we said the other day, they got like 300 million Prime members globally. Like, come on, man. Like, I don't know why people are surprised by this. It is easy to find. You don't have to pay more for it. It's not like the Sunday ticket. Like, you're good.
On network television, Monday Night Football draws 12 million people. Amazon Prime got 15 million people on Thursday Night Football.
Yes.
That's a shocking win. That is a shocking win. That is a massive number. I don't disagree with you. It's Amazon, and we talked about this the other day, like 162 million people, I think it was almost 170 million people have Amazon Prime. That's half the population of the United States has Amazon Prime. 15 million people watching any one thing is a massive number. To do it not on TV, it's an incredible win. But does it change what the Pac-12 or the Big 12? Does it make that a tier 1, like the place to watch Pac-12 football is on Amazon Prime?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason it can be a possibility is because everyone has Amazon Prime, right? Like, again, it's so funny. Like, if you think about what legitimizes something, right? Utility, people's need to use that product. So Amazon has this great thing where, hey, we've got this store where you're going to buy your everyday products, and then as part of that same subscription, again, it doesn't cost you more money. As part of that same subscription, we're going to provide you games. We're going to provide you football games. And I think in the NFL for Thursday night, it works great because it's once a week. So I'm assuming that if Amazon did a rights deal with college football, you probably would have to pay a little bit more. But that's the beauty of it.
Well, we were watching the game last night, Mrs. Monty and I, and I got to tell you, like, their little graphics channel, like when you flip on Amazon Prime to watch Thursday Night Football, they give you 3 options. English, which is, and we'll talk about Herb Street and Al Michaels in a second, but that you can watch that broadcast. They have a full Spanish language broadcast, and they have a graphics stat channel. And the cool thing is, like when you hand the ball, Brissett hands the ball to Nick Chubb, it tracks Nick Chubb. It tells you how fast he's running. It shows you a line behind him so you see where he ran. Like, it gives you stats, win probabilities, all kinds of stuff. It's actually a really entertaining product. Now, the only complaint I have about the Amazon broadcast is the sound is still too low. Mm-hmm. The sound is still too low. In Kirk Herbstreit, you have Jake, stop the music. Jake, you have finally done something well in your life.
Okay.
You have convinced me that Kirk Herbstreit is awkward calling NFL games.
Yeah, he's a college football guy.
It's awkward.
It just is what it is. And I think the only other knock on Amazon Prime is that when you're watching a game on Prime, you can't flip around to other games during commercials or anything else. You're on Amazon Prime.
Tanner says, I still hate Al Michaels. Plus, he and Kirk Herbstreit don't work well together.
I don't mind Al Michaels, man. I think
Michaels?
Al Michaels is a voice in football. There's no doubt about that.
How do you hate Al Michaels? That's crazy. Like, I just don't know. Okay, I'm not sure. Let's see. Simon says, when I hear that music, I'm expecting the quick 3 minutes with the man. Okay, I don't know.
I'm not really sure what that means.
Simon, I'm not sure. Who hurt you, Simon?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I don't know. Let's see. Tanner, that story was so insane. I don't know what story you're talking about. Have you guys talked about the Utah student threatening to blow up a nuclear reactor if Utah lost to
launch
San Diego
codes.
State? Yes, we talked about that, and I think it is I think it's crazy. Talking with Raphael podcast
on PBS Radio or Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime. Amazon should buy the DC Comics universe and start making movies and TV series. No, please. Please. We're going to, in non-sports stories today, I'm going to ask Jake a question. I'm sure the answer, no. Eric and Raleigh says, I love Al Michaels, but Herb Street is way outside his element in the NFL.
Yes.
Really?
Agreed.
Simon says, not everyone has Amazon Prime. Well,
no, but I'm telling you that most people have Amazon Prime. The numbers say that over half of Americans have Amazon Prime. So from a business perspective, that basically guarantees that you're going to do numbers.
Yep. Wings of Gumby. I wish football had a presence on Apple TV. Well, it does. It's called MLS. Anybody excited about that deal?
Neat.
All right, moving on. Boyd Lake says Thursday Night Football is here to stay. Think about it. Monday comes after several days of football. TNF comes after a 2-day drought. TNF is money.
Yep.
Well, you're starting to see that it's money. Absolutely, it's money.
Yep.
Eric says, Simon, 55% of the United States has Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I agree, not everyone has it, but when you have over half of Americans having it, you're making money.
Steve Moser, in some very interesting text, says, I love big corporations. Derp.
Okay.
It's the way of the world, bro. It is the way of the world. You know what I'm saying? Eric and Raleigh says another 25% have access to Amazon Prime through family and friends. Well,
agreed.
And I think that's
a great point.
Yeah. Carlin Lefevre says pegged with a water bottle. LMAO. That's not what I meant.
Well, it's what you said, okay?
Well, you know what? It doesn't matter what you meant to do. It only matters what you do. And
you said doo-doo.
You said doo-doo, and what you should do is go to Papa Murphy's Pizza.
No one goes all in on made-from-scratch freshness like Papa Murphy's. Because when you go all in, people notice. Go all in with the Triple Pet Pizza for just $11.99. Papa Murphy's. Change the way you pizza.
Probably want to get those graphics right. Depending on what's on the screen. Don't!
What a show.
Football
What a
at
show.
50 is presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza. Make sure you use the promo code Monty25. I'm ordering it tonight. In fact, I will maybe screen record. I don't know. I'll show you what I order on the Papa Murphy's app. Maybe I will, yeah. Because I'm telling you, Papa Murphy's on a Friday night is the best way to end the week. If I had not completely clouded my water in the hot tub, I would probably be eating Papa Murphy's Pizza in the hot tub.
Correctamundo.
It happens to the worst of us. The point is, man, cloudy water sounds like a kidney infection. My point is that Papa Murphy's Pizza is amazing. Use the promo code Monty25 to get 25% off your order of $25 or more. Good morning, Jake.
How are we doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm not going to explain it. The Monty Show is presented by the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. A lot going on in football this morning. Obviously, this story with George Kliavkoff, if you're just tuning into the show, there's a report out of North Carolina that says that the ACC, specifically with our good friends at the University of North Carolina, is exploring a merger with the ACC joining the Big 12 or the Pac-12 to form a super conference. North Carolina's athletic director sent a text to his chancellor that said, should we explore a partnership with the Big 12 or the Pac-12? That was from Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director at UNC, to which the chancellor said, oh, yeah, we could have a super conference both athletically and academically. Probably need to be called the Athletic Pacific Athletic Conference. Good luck saying
name.
that. Say that 5 times. The Athletic Pacific Athletic Conference of the Pacific and Atlantic. APAC. It's a super PAC. The point is, this is legit. This is real. This is a Freedom of Information Act request. And I think what it tells you is that the ACC realizes it has a very small window in time where it's got a little bit of leverage because of the value of its grant of rights and the cost it is to get out of that. And let's not forget the Notre Dame tie-in to the ACC for basketball. And let's not forget that the SEC is going to try to poach the finer brands in that league. It's going to be really interesting to see if the ACC and the Pac-12 pull this off, because I still maintain that ESPN would like the Big 12 and the Pac-12 to merge. And I think that's a super conference allegedly a super conference, but that's a conference with those combined brands that really could be a dominant force in college football. They would absolutely have to add San Diego State because there's no more real estate left in Southern California beyond San Diego. And I think you would have to add the Aztecs to have that footprint. But can you imagine a conference where you combined, and I actually think the Mountain West has real value now that Craig Thompson has stepped down, but can you imagine combining the best parts of the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the Mountain West? That's a real footprint. That is a West Coast conference.
Yeah.
And it would be very interesting to see exactly how all that worked out. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, well, what if a school like Gonzaga joins that conference just as a basketball member? Well, now you're really cooking with gas. What if we got a Mondo huge enormous West Coast conference that included Kansas and Gonzaga playing basketball twice a year every year?
Right.
I mean, there's real value in that. What if we got Kansas and Arizona? What if we got, UCLA and Gonzaga playing twice a year every year? Like, think about the ramifications and the possibilities. And that's why I say, hey, if you're the Pac-12, if you're the Big 12, if you're the ACC, you can't afford to sit around and wait. And I understand that the expanded college football playoff money makes it a possibility to slow down expansion. I don't know that that's possible anymore. When you see text messages like that, and UNC is a power program, just in basketball alone, but obviously the football program has made strides. But when you see somebody like North Carolina truly acting, I mean, they're thinking about it far more than, hey, what do you think about pizza or burgers?
Right.
Like, they've got a name for it. To me, that there's real value in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's obviously interest. I think that the problem is that the Pac-12 is prideful. The problem is that George Kliavkoff wants to sell a bill of goods about how his conference is the best thing since sliced bread, and I think that that's going to deteriorate conversations when those conversations begin. Because again, this whole super conference concept isn't going anywhere. It's going to be here. It's going to happen, and I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Whether it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now or however long it takes, but the super conference idea just works too well for it not to happen. I mean, think about it. Instead of having five conferences that are competing for the college football playoff, why would you not break that down into 3 conferences? Why wouldn't you have the SEC, the Big 10, and then this ACC, Big 12, Pac-12 sort of merger or whatever? Like, obviously, you'd have to work that out a bit, but you kind of see the picture become a little clearer when you think about, hey, we have 2 huge conferences, and within those conferences, they're going to have some rules for eligibility and stuff for the college football playoff. And then the big boys don't change. And that's why I think it works, because it's simple, it makes sense, there's a lot of TV money in that, like it just pans out. So the only problem I see is how childish the Pac-12 will be in those conversations and how long they'll hold it up.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. What do you make of super conferences, though? Like, are super conferences good for college athletics? I think this is a huge question. I really want your comments on this. Let's get our commenters going this morning. I see a lot of you are here. Obviously, if you're here right now, please give us a thumbs up and a like. It really helps the channel grow. We are trying our best to get to 10,000 before this fine 2022 year ends. October's next week. Give us a thumbs up and a like. What do you guys think of super conferences? Jake, are super conferences good for college athletics?
Well, good or bad, I think, like I was saying, I think they're coming. I mean, you have a situation where you have different conferences, obviously, that are good at different things. So, like, the ACC is a basketball conference. The Big 12 is basketball and football. The Big 10, you can make a case for basketball, I guess, but I view the Big 10 more as a football conference. And the SEC, obviously, is the leading football conference. So, to me, you have, good or bad, I think you have differences in all of these conferences. And if you combine those sub-conferences, you can put together a pretty good product. And I think where the conversation really starts to take off is TV money and revenue in what that looks like. Because if you have a scenario where, the west of the Mississippi River, let's say that's one conference, and then east of the Mississippi River, you do it that way, that's a big deal. That's a lot of teams. That's a lot of TV revenue. Let's say that the ACC and the Pac-12, like is being reported, are, the ACC is interested in that type of setup. That's also really interesting to me, because then you get a scenario where you've got both of the coasts of the United States teaming up for a conference. There's a lot of travel in that, but that's very attractive. You're telling me that coastal cities being in one conference isn't attractive? Like, yeah, it's very attractive. So that's why I say I think it is good for college football. But I think the problem is these commissioners get really prideful about their conferences and think that they're better than anybody else, and that holds up conversations, which inevitably holds up business. So that's the issue.
Well, and I also think that when you talk about the money, the financials of it, my question is how much of this goes back to the kid? Because I also think when you look at super conferences, you have to talk about the fact that I don't believe NIL has been good for the student athlete. I think in certain limited situations it has been. The transfer portal largely is a failure for the kid getting in the transfer portal, right? There are, again, Caleb Williams is a very rare example of this. You look at guys and their plights and their fights to get to the NFL, let's say in college football.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily believe that NIL and the transfer portal have helped student athletes. I think super conferences make more money. The question is, how long will the NCAA survive? Because my biggest hope and the reason I support super conferences is I believe that the NCAA should be abolished. I think it's a joke. I think it is a money-making operation for a bunch of old white guys that are already millionaires who are making millions of dollars off of these kids who give, in some cases, they give up the best years of their life to play football so rich old men can get richer. And my hope is that we see super conferences come in and that those super conferences eventually do away with the NCAA, because the SEC doesn't need the NCAA. The Pac-12 desperately needs the NCAA because they're incompetent. The Big 12 doesn't need the NCAA. The Big 10 doesn't need the NCAA. Form super conferences and eliminate the NCAA. Let's have a real college football playoff.
Yeah.
Let's have a system where the best teams in the country prove that they're the best teams in the country. And I think one of the best things that's come out of all of this TV money and all of these grant of rights is we're finally pushing to a point where the TV industry has as much sway as the administrators and the presidents at these colleges do to make more money. Put those kids on TV, put more kids in leverage situations, and let them prove their salt so that they can go and make money in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because again, I will just say, I still maintain, even with NIL in the wild, wild west that has become NIL, most kids are suffering through it. They're not making money. We're talking about hundreds of dollars in some cases, and most kids don't even make that.
Yeah, and I think dissolving the NCAA is a brilliant move because it just brings so much more flexibility. Like, let's consolidate and get flexible. Like, let's put together a system where we don't care how much Jimmy the tight end is making versus how much the quarterback is making. Like, let these guys go out and make money. I mean, you have, it's no secret you have student athletes who are working full-time jobs to pay for their education in addition to the sports that they do, you know? And that to me is just insanity. That's why I'm saying, like, in Dude's letter, in Kliavkoff's letter, when he's talking about how, well, UCLA going to the Big Ten is not going to benefit the student athlete, it's a joke because the student athlete doesn't benefit now.
No.
So to me, that's just it's just not a point. Like, it's BS.
All right, coming up here in 15 minutes, you're going to hear from Ben Simmons. I want to get a little NFL in or a little NBA in here on Football Friday, but I cannot wait to crush somebody on this Ben Simmons bite because, again, it proves I'm good looking. But let's get your comments on super conferences. Fat Jesus says super conferences are like orgies. It looks fun, but too many people to really get to know anyone over time.
Do you want to set up the meeting?
All right, let's move on. What do I even say to that? Joshua Taylor says, I get the conferences may not have the biggest or best brands, but I've maintained the PAC should merge with the Mountain West to corner the West Coast market like the SEC has done in the South.
And I think that's another
it's a really
idea.
Smart point.
Like, but this is kind of what I'm getting at with George Kliavkoff. He's not good at business. Like, you're spending your time fretting over UCLA. Like, with all due respect to UCLA, they haven't done a damn thing in decades. Like, you should be spending your time on ideas like this, like merging with another conference or building this bigger and better product that's going to make you more money and sort of reset the lifeblood of the conference, because that's what needs to happen. You're meddling in this scenario where you're not going to survive instead of saying, okay, yeah, let's build something new that people like.
What survival?
Yeah.
Survival is an interesting word because I don't know that survival matters at this level. I mean, for the conference, sure. For the brand of the Pac-12, Utah's always going to have a home.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Stanford, Cal.
But George doesn't give a damn about that.
No, he doesn't. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
I think when you get into these situations where you have guys like, you look at any of these commissioners.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Warren is right now is the hottest commodity in the business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what he's done, and you can't help but think that he has done a really good job representing the Big Ten.
But you look at his aggressiveness, you look at his willingness to go out and put together the Notre Dame, NBC, Big 12 like window in time on a Saturday. That concept. That tells me he's good at doing business. Like, you're thinking about...
But what about Brett Yormark? I mean, is he a guy that, obviously he's a new commissioner.
Yeah.
He hasn't done a whole lot.
But he hasn't been in office long.
No, he's opened up negotiations on his TV rights, or he said he is going to. They have not, from my understanding, done so.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are we in a situation where this is a guy that we think is a better commissioner than George Kliavkoff? I don't know. He seems to do it better than George does. I mean, I thought it was really smart. Your first action was to tour all your campuses.
Yeah. The biggest problem I have with George is that he's not a business mind. He is the numbers say this. Great, then that's the case. It's not always about the numbers.
No, it's
not. You have
not.
to understand that it's about the impact on the consumer, because that's what we're all sitting here talking about. Like, let's be honest. College athletics is all about how many people can you get to watch your product. And with all due respect to water polo, it's not paying the bills, right? So to me, when you're looking at football, that's what pays the bills. Football is not even my number one sport. I'm a basketball and baseball guy. But the fact is football is what everyone cares about. So that's what we're going to talk about on this show regularly during football season. That's what George Kliavkoff does not understand.
No,
it's not
I agree
about
with that.
It's not about 100 years and 190 some odd championships or whatever. It's not about that, George. It's about putting together a product that is unique and that someone cannot find anywhere else, which is the Amazon Prime experience, which is any of these other high-end schools.
Which, by the way, Larry Scott told us 5 years ago, at Pac-12 Media Day, he straight up told us, oh, yeah, we have a deal in the works. It'll be fine.
And that was a lie.
And it's still not fine. So, but, interesting point by Simon. So do you think Yormark is going to develop a super conference for the Big 12? Because personally, I think if Yormark doesn't get aggressive soon, I'm scared the Big 12 will get left out. I don't know what the Big 12 needs to do. I know what I would do. And if I were the Big 12, I would poach teams from the Pac-12. But let's not forget, jerk-off face liar guy, Kliavkoff, said, hey, none of our schools are leaving. He guarantees, I guarantee you, none of our schools are leaving for the Big 12. He said, I guarantee you, none of them are leaving.
Congratulations, but that's bullshit.
Right? Like, how, what do you mean you guarantee?
Yeah.
If I am the Big 12, he is baiting me. If I am the Big 12, I'm going to get San Diego State. I'm going to get Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to try and get Arizona, Utah, probably Oregon and Washington, who I think eventually end up in the Big Ten.
Right.
And I think probably Stanford and Cal go with, because the Big Ten knows it needs travel partners for Southern California. If I'm me, and frankly, I think that's what the Board of Regents is waiting for. The UC Board of Regents is to figure out if the Big Ten is going to add Stanford, Cal, Oregon, and Washington so that they can have travel partners, because that's the right move here. And then as soon as that happens, I mean, the conference is deader than dead, that it's dead already and dead.
Right.
And stuff deceased.
Right.
If I'm the Big 12, I'm going after everybody else because the Big 12 cannot compete with the Big 10.
Yeah.
I think there's no question about that
and
financially.
I don't think that's not a shade or a slight to the Big 12. I mean, it's just where things are at. And I think that, if you're the Big 12, you're in a position where, you don't want to get left behind. At the same time, you also don't want to be in a position where you're at the behest of the Big 10. And that's why I say, if you see, this report that comes out that the ACC was looking at a possible merger and a super conference, if I'm Yormark, I'm calling those guys and I'm saying, hey, what did you have in mind? Like, let's at least put the concept together. What does that look like, roughly speaking? Hey, what would be some numbers we'd be looking at, or how would we work this? You got to explore those opportunities because ultimately that's how business gets done.
Yep. This hour of the show presented by our good friend Devry Davis at Academy Mortgage. And again, the real estate market is crazy. You saw what happened with rates. You can't, in my opinion, you want to talk about being aggressive? You got to be aggressive with your mortgage. I mean, you're in a position where you either have a mortgage and you likely should refi, or you want to buy a house and you just think you can't afford it. But trust me when I say you can. Days on market are up. That means how many days has this house been listed for sale? Those are getting longer and longer and longer, which means the prices are getting lower and lower and lower. And there's never been a better time for you right now than today to call our good friend Devry Davis at Academy Mortgage, the Davis lending team, 801-543-9666, NMLS number 278545, because Devry Davis, plain and simply put, he is a guy you can trust. He's written 3 mortgages for Mrs. Monty and me. He has been a great guy to deal with. You deal with him directly, too. I love all these other mortgages that are like, oh, it's personal service. And then you get some guy in a call center in Poughkeepsie who doesn't even know your name and never wants to know your name, right? I mean, to me, when you're making the largest transaction of your entire life, you want to be able to say, hey, Devry, how's this going? Hey, what about this? How about that? That's why you go to a guy like Devry Davis and the Davis lending team at Academy Mortgage.
You're listening to The Monty Show, my favorite peeps. I'm Devry Davis with the Davis lending team, powered by Academy Mortgage. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, you don't know what you're doing, you bought multiple homes, second homes, investment properties, multifamily, we've got you covered. Our office consists of everybody it takes to do your loan, from processing to underwriting to doc departments. We do it all right here. We're not waiting on Tucumcari Carrier or Walla Walla, Washington to answer an email. We take care of it here. The housing market's changed. Prices are dropping. It's the greatest time to buy a house. There's no such thing as a dumb question. If you have any questions, you give me a shout. I'll walk you through it. Have a great day. Tell my money guys I said what's up.
What's up? Devry Davis at Academy Mortgage, the Davis lending team, 801-543-9666. Equal housing lenders. Good dude, too. Good dude. Devry Davis is salt of the earth. That's the guy you want to deal with. Tell him you heard about us on the Monty Show. We appreciate that very much. 822, let's keep getting your comments in here. Let's see. Tanner says, by the way, Jake, I didn't think red is your color.
What you mean, man?
What do you mean red's not his color?
Bro, red's a power color, bro.
Why would red not be his color? What do you mean? Talking with Raphael podcast says favorite sports, football, basketball, baseball, football, and everything else. Okay, I like it. Simon says Yormark is keeping his cards close to his vest. Very smart.
Agreed.
And notice he's not doing what Kliavkoff jerkface is doing.
This is another great point by you. I agree with this.
Kliavkoff is just out there spewing garbage. Whether it's in a letter to the UC Board of Regents, this hit piece he did with Canzano and Wilner, like he's just out here guaranteeing nobody's going to the Big 12.
And I don't understand the strategy with that, because just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. Like, just because you're out here writing letters and talking a bunch of junk about how no one's going to the Big 12, like, and let's not forget about what he said about the Big 12 in media days, too. Like, he said that the Big 12 was just trying to tear down the Pac-12, and it's like, dude, like, this is what I mean. He's focused on everybody else except himself in this conference. That's the problem. And I'm telling you, Yormark is not an idiot. Like, Warren is not an idiot. The guys running UNC and the ACC are not idiots, man. They are going to get together and they will put something together. Again, I don't know what the desire for it is right now, but I'm telling you, college athletics is heading to a super conference setup because logistically speaking, when you can cover more ground, it just makes more sense, man.
Yeah, I agree. Boyd Lake says Yormark moved the Big 12 TV rights negotiation window. He is being aggressive. True.
Yeah.
True. And I'll have a couple of phone calls today to see if those negotiations have started, because ESPN pretty much came right back out and said, no, we haven't started talking yet.
Yeah.
So Wings of Gumby says, if the ACC, Big 12, Pac-12 merge, call it an open athletic conference, OPAC. Okay. Okay, like OPAC.
Oh, the OPAC, the CPAC.
Yeah, they deal in oil.
The SPAC.
Caden Adonis says, if Washington State has a stellar year, do they get invited or do they still get left behind? I just, with all due respect, right, I don't see that Oregon State and Washington State have a lot to do here. I don't see that they have leverage.
That's out of the window.
I mean, listen, they bring viewers. I mean, Washington State's TV numbers are actually pretty good. But I think when you look at overall value, the bandwidth to add teams is not endless.
Right.
It's just not endless.
I think what ends up happening, though, is so the Big Ten obviously is not done adding teams. And then the Big 12 is obviously going to add teams. So my question is, for the Pac-10, if let's say the Big Ten adds 5 of the what's left in the Pac, you can't tell me those other 5 teams aren't going to get swallowed up by somebody. They will. They'll find a place.
Well, and I think the other thing that Kliavkoff Jerkface did to college football is he's also made it so that when you look at these schools that have ties now,
yeah,
and you look at the UC system, they are absolutely going to change the way they allow schools to do business in their conferences now.
Facts.
And you're going to see that you're going to have agreements where, you know, schools like, and I think Washington is one of the schools doing it. Washington and Washington State will have some kind of agreement. And when you look at the way that college football works, I can't say that I disagree with that. I mean, it's very difficult when you're Cal Berkeley and you've been terrible at making money. And this is part of the other conversation in the Pac-12. They don't have good business people running those schools. They
Y'all
don't.
feel me?
I mean, Cal Berkeley is in dreadful financial shape because they renovated a football stadium that, frankly, not many people were interested in going to. And still, people aren't that interested in going to.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that people like Cal and UCLA are just not good at making money. Yet you have somebody in USC just down the road that's a private school that's wonderful at making money.
Yeah.
And you look at schools like Stanford. Stanford's well aware of who they are. They're not an athletic school. They're an institution of higher learning.
And I don't even think they want to be an athletic school. Like, their whole thing has always been that, yeah, we're an institution of higher learning and we're making, you know, we're giving people this ridiculous education, and I'm fine with that. I frankly don't have a problem with it. But I think at some point, and I don't know when this is going to happen, but I have to imagine there will come a point in this process where the threat of teams leaving the Pac wakes up George Kliavkoff and he starts to understand, okay, I need to change the edict here. I need to kind of shift. And I don't know when that happens.
Oh, boy. Tom Basilius needs a little help with a text message, Jake. He says, hey, chat and Monty, Jake, sir, this one out. Sit this one out. Any breakup advice? Jake
depends on the situation, bro.
Jake breaks up. Tom, give us a little more advice. We'd be happy to advise you on how to break her heart. You want to crush souls? We're very good at. Well, Jake does it over text usually.
Right.
I wouldn't advise that. I'd actually advise you to communicate. But Tom, let's get some advice rolling. Tell us your situation. What do you need to know? Look at Boyd Lake. Tom Basilius, just be honest. Don't avoid a painful talk. So much easier said than done. So much easier. San Diego State Aztec says, I agree, Monty. I've been saying since the start of realignment that the Big 12 should grab San Diego State, get the SoCal footprint, and if the Pac-12 dies, it dies. If the Pac-12 dies, it dies.
It is what it is.
If it dies, it dies. It's dead.
Yeah.
We'll eat it and stuff. That is, I don't know what Ivan Drago's voice sound like, so I make it like this.
Okay.
Is that at all Russian or is that more Slovakian?
I'm not sure.
That feels much more.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Slovakian.
Yeah,
it does. Let's see. Breakup advice on this show is going to be amazing. Caden Adona says USC and UCLA are irreplaceable. The Pac-12 will never recover. No, it won't. Exactly right. M. Alvarez says text is by far the best way to break up. No mess. Was there any mess when you broke up with that girl by text, Jake?
Yes.
You broke up with her by text? Yes.
Where are we at in society today?
Yes, Jake did that.
But you don't leave it. You don't put any context into it. Like you
no,
make it out.
When
like
you break up with her by text, do not put context in that text. You out. You out. New hoes in town.
Yeah.
What do you mean I don't put context?
You don't put any context into it. You don't say why it happened that way or what the reason was. You make it out like I just chose to do it that way.
Yeah, you woke up one day, dropped the Browns off at the Super Bowl. You're like, yeah, I've had enough.
Right.
Pulled out your phone and you said it's over.
Right.
And then you blocked her. That's the last thing you ever talked to her about, right?
Right.
Is that not how it went?
No.
That's not actually how it went. Okay, let's go. Oh, Tom just ruined his own life. So she's getting heavier. That's probably not when you say you need breakup advice. When we say, well, why do you want to break up with her?
Okay, how long have you been together?
Yeah, she put on a few pounds.
No, we need more than that. I need more than why you don't like her.
She's getting heavier, and I don't want to sleep with her anymore. She's never had a good personality.
How long have you been together?
Jeez,
bro, how?
Oh, Mrs. Oh God.
Yeah, I mean you're asking for trouble here.
Oh God.
What's this gentleman's name? Tom.
Tommy.
Tom. Sounds like you've only been with her to make your penis happy. And not to actually
here we
make
go.
You or her happy. If she never had a good personality.
God.
I'm just saying that maybe breaking up by text is just fine. But
God.
You need to actually have some better relationships.
Please give Mrs. Monty a filter.
Nope.
Okay.
I need to know. We need more context here.
Yeah,
we need more context. How long have you been
She's
together?
gained weight.
Wait, but hold on. Seriously, how long have you been together? Do you live together?
5 years.
What is the concept?
They've been together 5 years.
Sorry.
Easy. You've been together for 5 years?
And only because you liked the sex? She's never had a great personality. You need to have better relationships.
Wait a minute. Okay.
No.
Now this is it.
Okay,
Okay.
you gotta let dude explain.
Jake was
you gotta
not
let dude explain.
with her for 5 years.
Okay, so wait a minute. Tom,
Donnie,
you've been with her for 5 years, clearly only because of the sex. Now she gained weight, so the sex isn't so good, and she's not a great conversationalist. So I'm out.
Do you live together?
Yeah, do you guys live together? Like, how have you been with her for 5 years?
I assume you do if you've been together 5 years.
Whoa. Cody Strickland says, damn, Tom, you shouldn't say that. You should have said that I lost that special connection with her. Not say the girl got a little bit too big for me.
Connection.
Well, look, man, we used to have these great conversations, but you're fat, so I'm out. See you later. I don't even... listen,
no, but come on, Tom, seriously.
First of all,
yeah,
in all seriousness, you cannot say to her, hey, you're fat. Or
yeah, that doesn't work, bro.
You can't.
That's just not how life works.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, this is. Oh my God.
So wait, okay, no, but seriously, Tom.
And Jake and I have talked about this. Jake and I talk about women all the time. You cannot be with a woman simply for sex.
Yeah, that's wrong.
That is always, and once you break up, you cannot any longer have sex with that woman who you were just with for sex.
Completely agree.
But I don't buy this, Tom. And Tom's probably scared now. I don't buy this, Tom, that you were with her for 5 years simply because of the sex. So it's only one of a couple things. If you've been with her for five years and she has no personality, what you're telling me is that you're comfortable. You maybe have a confidence issue on your own.
And again, we're not criticizing you.
No, I'm just trying
to get... We're just trying to talk about it. Like
I'm trying to get a little background.
Go in on, dude. Like, give the guy a chance here.
Yeah, I'm not going in on the guy.
Jake's so nice.
But I think because it feels like an avalanche when you're like trying to.
Yeah.
And what I envision is Tom is like, oh God, how am I going to say this now? Well, it's not that she's fat.
We need more context because Tom, I'll be honest with you, dude. I don't buy that you're bringing this up just because she's somehow put on a few pounds and doesn't have some great personality.
There's got to be something more here.
I'm sure that she's a perfectly nice person. Yes, people change. The pandemic, I have no problem saying I probably put on at least 20, 30 pounds during the pandemic. No problem saying it. Like, we all went through it. So we need some context. How, like what is the actual issue? Because these are very real conversations.
I cannot be. Yeah, I need to know. So, Tom, here are the questions I need to know. Why have you been with her for 5 years? Do you love this woman? I mean, you're with her for 5 years. Okay, Tom says, and Tom, we're all sitting here hanging on your answers, so get typing. He says, legit, I appreciate that you guys originally went with I wanted to break up with her. She dumped me. So the advice I wanted was on how to deal with getting my heart broken by my true love.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
Got it.
what? Okay, now I need to go back and
so did we
wait, how did this happen?
Yeah, what's going on here?
I didn't misread. Tom said, hey, Chat and Monty Jake, sit this one out. Any breakup advice? Then he said, so she's getting heavier and I don't want to sleep with her anymore. She never had a good personality. What am I supposed to do? You were with her for 5 years.
Right?
Laughing emoji. And then you said, this is awesome. Thank you. Legit. I appreciate that you guys originally went with I wanted to break up with her. She dumped me. So the advice I wanted was, how do I deal with getting my heart broken by my true love? Okay. Now, here's the other problem. Is she your true? You just called your true love fat.
Yeah, you need to. Okay, here's the deal.
What we need to do is you need to hit the reset button.
Yeah, you need to tell the truth about what exactly you're asking, because if you're just trying to, make fun of the comments, that's fine. Like, I get it. It's the comments, but
as far as how you get over having your heart broken, I'm always somebody that will tell you there is no getting over having your heart broken. A, and B, it's a life hack.
Yeah, you just have to push through.
It's a critical part of anybody's existence. That's where you grow as a person. So if you truly had your heart broken, I don't know. Now everybody says we should block Tom.
No, Tom doesn't need to be blocked.
Tom what did he say? What did he say? He said right there. What did he say?
Tom said the truth is she's beautiful, a gymnast just got broken up with.
Yeah. So okay.
So you're dealing with getting broken up with.
Yeah. So the problem,
which is totally legit.
You need to, like, my opinion's always been, you just need to reset. Like, you just need to go back and do your thing. Like, it's not like if you focus on being broken up with, you're gonna stay upset about it. But
why are you annoyed? You seem mad.
Because I think that what happens is what I don't like, with all due respect, Tom, is that clearly you're upset about getting broken up with, which totally understand. I completely get it. 100% understand. But what we do as people is we want to joke about it to feel better instead of just getting to brass tacks and the facts of, hey, I have to live my life and I have to move on. Like, the fact is it's in the past. It's over with. You're never talking to her again.
Yeah.
And you need to, like for me, it was always about, like, I just need to get back on building what we're trying to do. That's how I dealt with it. Like, and by the way, like, I don't know, do you live alone? Do you, like, what's your setup now? Because that also matters.
Yeah, I think you got to go to the gym. And there's a bunch of people saying that. New York Jazz fan says, hit the gym, read some growth mind books, hang with your friends, stay busy and focus on growing. Yeah, that's what you need to do. I would not call your true love fat when she's not fat, though. That's not cool.
Yeah.
All right, 8:38.
Yeah.
Should we finally make some picks?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's get to, where do you want to start? I want to start with Utah and Arizona State, because I actually think this is the trap game of the year.
You keep saying that.
Oh, it is.
Why do you think Arizona State has any chance in this game?
I think here on the Monty Show, presented by the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com, I think when you look at Arizona State, there's no reason that they should win this game. They're not talented. They're not deep. They're not well coached. They're not disciplined.
Well, they don't have a coach. I'm just kidding. Obviously, they do.
Obviously. Herm Edwards got fired pretty much on the field according to video.
Yeah.
There's no reason for Arizona State to win this game. There's every reason for Utah to win this game. And it would be very easy in their preparation, in their preparatory period, for Utah to look past Arizona State. Did I mention they're a 15.5-point favorite in this game?
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge line. This is an easy letdown game, man. This game is so dangerous. If I'm Utah, and if you're just tuning in, Jake said earlier Utah's got to come out flying. That's exactly right. If I'm Utah, I want a 21-point first quarter. This is never a game. It's a scrimmage. If they start slow, Arizona State's going to be in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't disagree that if Utah looked past Arizona State, that's obviously a mistake. I totally agree, but I think that the issue here for Arizona State is that Utah, is got some momentum. You had a nice week against San Diego State last week. This week, you're looking to build on that, and I think that you're looking to keep Tavion Thomas rolling in the run game. I thought finally he got going last week, and obviously Devon Vele needs to keep it going. For me, I just think that Utah's a better program, like just through and through. I don't think this is even going to be close, and to be honest with you, I don't think that 15.5 in this particular game is that big of a number. Ooh. I think that Utah is better. I think that Utah will control this game, and frankly, I think that Utah's defense will cause at least one turnover, which ultimately leads to that 21-point first quarter.
The over on this game, PointsBet has it at 53. FanDuel's got it at 53.5.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a 15-point favorite,
yeah, this game is 31-10, 35-10.
This feels like a 42-17 game.
42-17, sure. Yeah, totally could see it. Yeah,
that's
like a big spread.
That's what this feels like. But the number's 15, and PointsBet has it at 15.5. I'm really surprised by that.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. Arizona State's defensive front is not good.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't stop the run well. Tavion should have a huge night here. But 15.5 points, I think that's going to be a tough number to cover. I think
guess
that's going to be a tough number to cover here.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you're obviously, yeah. But I don't know. I'm just on a different side of this. I don't worry about Arizona State. I think that Utah's going to handle business. I didn't like how slow they came out against San Diego State, but I think that gets fixed this week a little bit through the run game. And really focusing on that early. So, to me, I don't know about 40 against Arizona State, but I think, 30 to 35 points for Utah, and I think anywhere between, 10 to 17 for Arizona State. That's what this game plans out, in my opinion.
If I'm sitting here predicting this,
yeah,
I think this is a win cover over. 53, you're favored by 15.5. 53 seems like a low number to me.
Well, what they're saying with that number is that Arizona State's just not going to score.
Yeah, they're not going to score.
Yeah,
and this defense is elite. I mean, I think Barton's going to have a breakout performance this season, and he's going to become that stud that they've been looking for. But if 42-17 feels right. 40, and I don't know that Arizona State can score. I very much wonder if Arizona State could beat Fresno State, if Arizona State could beat San Diego State. And I'm not convinced they can. So I think I would go somewhere in the line 42-10 is where I would go.
Yeah.
I want to say it's going to be over, but I can't get there. I think 42-10 is where I would go. That's 52 points. So win cover under is what
I think it's under for sure. I think it's like,
you think under for sure?
I think it's like 35-10, 35.
It's pretty rare that the two of us are this far apart on a game.
Yeah, I think Utah dominates this game.
Okay. 21 points in the first quarter. 21 points, that's the way it's got to be. Jesse Harsh says prayer for ASU's interim coach. Eric and Raleigh says 22-21 ASU with a 2-point conversion to win it. Stop. Do not even joke. Boyd Lake says take the over here. Jansen says the only reason I debated going to ASU were because of the parties. It is a great campus. It is a great campus. Wow, Tanner says 40-14 ASU scores a TD in garbage time. I could see that happening. Neville93 says, aren't there a lot of homeless and drug problems in Arizona? No more than anywhere else. It's just hot, man. It's just hot. That's what I'm saying. Let's see. K. Nurin says Utah wins out, goes to the Rose Bowl, and joins the Big 12. Utah 65-14. Can you see another 60, 70 point game for Utah?
I could, yeah.
Oof.
I could, but it's gonna have Vele's gonna have to be much better than he's been.
Yeah, much better than he's been.
You're not going to do that against a Pac-12 team.
I actually think this is a really important game for Utah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like, again, I will just say it's a trap game, and I think that Utah needs to really throw the football. Throw the football prolifically. You have two great receivers in Keithy and Kincaid. You've got two guys that had a breakout performance in Vele and Enos last week. I would be throwing the football. I think this is an important game. This isn't a game to be overlooked.
Yeah.
This is not a game to just kind of write off. I think that Oregon State game, like, you need to be as confident as you've ever been going into that game next week.
Yeah.
I would be on that, and then I don't know. I feel like I'm the only one who thinks that this could be a tight game.
Yeah.
You know, like I
don't think it's going to be a tight game. Like if they get off to a slow start, then it'll be tight in the first half. But I think they just need to find their groove. Utah is notorious for running the football and playing defense, and they haven't quite hit their stride with that yet. So to me, if you do that against Arizona State, you're going to dominate this game.
Okay. All right. Let's move on then. BYU.
Yeah.
Want to talk about a big line.
Yeah, this is a big line.
BYU is 21.5 points over Wyoming.
Yeah. I don't like this line at all.
You don't like that line at all?
No, I don't like this line at all. I think that, I don't know, something just tells me, like, the way BYU got beat last week, obviously this is a get-back game. Obviously BYU is out to prove a point, and I would expect, full-fledged offense for at least 3 quarters in this game. And then I would expect the Jacob Conover show in the 4th. However, I don't like that BYU's run defense has been absolute garbage this season. And that worries me in this game because Wyoming's offense is a run-first offense. And to me, if Wyoming is able, because again, Wyoming doesn't need to, reinvent the wheel here, right? You're not going to win this game. But the point is that if you can run the football in this game, if you're Wyoming, even if you're just averaging 4 yards a carry, you're going to possess the football for a good bit against this BYU defense. And that's what concerns me because the BYU defense likes to put 3 at the line and drop 8 and play real soft defense. And that's an ideal scenario to run the football. So I'm not sitting here certainly saying that BYU is in any danger of losing this game. I do think that this will be an ass kicking, but what I'm looking for in this game is how does BYU stop the run? Show me you can consistently stop the run, and then I will feel good about this team.
Just looking at the way the boys in Vegas have this game, 49.5 is the consensus total. 49.5? Is BYU not going to score 50 points in this game? I'd be surprised if they scored less than 50 points in this game. And again, I know that Wyoming is that team that everybody's like, oh, it's hip, cool, and neat. And Wyoming is not good. Wyoming's not going to score in this game. I think 10 points would be a gift. I don't believe they'll be able to throw the ball. I think they're a one-dimensional offense.
Well, if they're a one-dimensional offense, what is BYU? Like, BYU's been a one-dimensional offense.
But against their lesser opponents, BYU has been able to run the ball. I would expect Chris Brooks to have 100 yards in this game.
Well,
I would think so. I think BYU's defense is going to dominate.
My problem is I'd love to agree with you on Chris Brooks, but I don't think we can say we expect him to have 100 yards. Like, he's got to show that he's capable of that. What's he done that gives you any sort of confidence he can do that?
Not a lot. But it's Wyoming. You're clearly outmatched here.
Yeah, again, BYU's going to dominate this game, but it's a matter of how you do it. BYU over the last decade has been a passing first team. That's who they've been, Guys like Tyler Algier have been an anomaly in this program. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you roll out against Wyoming and you're 2.5, 3 yards a carry again, like, that's not going to feel good. That's not a good omen for later in the schedule.
But I also think that BYU needs to embrace throwing the football more. They need to become a more open spread offense, which I think Kalani's not a fan of. because that puts your defense at a much higher risk, a much higher level of liability. And I think that this is one of those things where they have to figure out how, in fact, that they can, end this game quickly enough that the Papa Murphy's Pizza will still be fresh and hot right off the Traeger smoker. Football 50 presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza. Make sure you get your Papa Murphy's Pizza tonight. Oh, it's Friday night, man. It's Papa Murphy's Pizza. Not that there's ever a bad night to have the Papa Murphy's Pizza or the Take and Bake chocolate chip cookie dough, which we will do both tonight. But if I'm BYU, I embrace the throw game more. I mean, if you're not going to be able to run the ball at a level that's effective, yeah, sure, this exposes your defense more, but it also puts the ball in Jaron Hall's hands a lot more. And I think it's heavily dependent on whether Puka Nacua and Gunnar Romney can stay on the field, or in Gunnar's case, get on the field.
That's my problem.
And one of the things I thought was so interesting is the verbiage on Puka Nacua's injury changed this week.
Mm-hmm.
It is not an ankle sprain. It's a high ankle sprain.
Right.
Which, if you don't know what a high ankle sprain is, the bottom of your leg has two bones in it. When you have a high ankle sprain, it means that the bones split and one of them almost snapped. It's a very difficult injury to recover from. It usually takes 6 weeks. And a lot of times what they do is they do a procedure where they drill a hole in both your leg bones and they put a wire between them to bring them closer back together. I would not anticipate Puka Nacua being part of the game plan tomorrow against Wyoming.
You have to be committed to running the football, man. Like, I don't disagree with you. If you can't run it effectively,
go all in.
Like, you got, like, I don't know, man. I really struggle with this concept because it's cool to say that they should pass more, but if you don't have Puka and Gunnar, who are you passing to? Like, I get it.
All in.
Chase Roberts has had a nice start here, but he's Chase Roberts, not Puka Nacua. So that's why I say you got to run the football, man. Like, it's just a fact of life in a football game. You got to be able to run for 4 or 5 yards.
I think if you are Christopher Brooks, this is make or break. The next 2 weeks will determine your fate as a BYU football player, and I think he's going to have 100 yards on the ground. I think this offensive line is going to be better this week than they've been at any time this season, and I think BYU is going to score 60 points in this game, and I think they're going to win somewhere in the line of 60-17, 60-14.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think you got to pound the over in this game. I mean, 49.5 is... I am stunned by that.
Yeah, that's a pretty low over.
I am stunned by that number. I think that the over is a gift in this game. I think BYU easily covers. The number, by the way, is now 22, and the consensus spread is now 22.5 points. So I think you take the win, the cover, and the over. I think it's like 62-17.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to kick the hell out of this team. I'm just telling you, within the game, like the running thing, you need to watch for that.
Yeah, we'll see. Do you like any of the other games this weekend in college football? Because I got to tell you, the spreads this week are almost impossible to bet. I mean, Georgia's a 45-point favorite against Kent State. Now, that's in Athens, so I mean,
they'll
it's
beat
at
them by more than that.
It's at Sanford Stadium, so you would expect
that's a 50-point win for sure.
But are you betting that game?
I mean, you're definitely not betting Kent State to cover.
Michigan's but look at Michigan is only a 17-point favorite at home against Maryland at Michigan Stadium.
Well,
that's been that Michigan. This is the best Michigan offense I've ever seen under Jim Harbaugh. It's shocking. Yeah. Perhaps the best offense we've seen at Michigan in some time. I think one of the best games is one of the early games. Clemson at Wake Forest. I would take Wake Forest in that game. Clemson's a 7.5-point favorite. Bet Wake Forest all day in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Wake Forest is always underrated. I mean, their opportunity to cover there is pretty good. I would agree.
You know the dangerous game of the day? Baylor and Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor is in Ames, Iowa to take on Iowa State. That number is -2.5 for Iowa State.
That's rough.
That's exactly right. I'm taking Iowa State in that game.
Yeah, I think you have to.
I have not loved at all what I've seen from the Baylor Bears.
Yeah, with all due respect to Jer Bear, quarterback, I'm not loving his game.
I'm sorry,
so
I
far.
thought you said Jer Bear.
Yeah, Jer Bear. You know.
Okay. I think I would go to. Yeah, I think I would take Iowa State in that game. But one of the other games that I think is really fascinating to watch is Oregon at Washington State. You want to talk about a trap game.
Well, it's super important that Oregon wins this game, because if Oregon can win this game after what they did to BYU, I think now the college football, the AP has to give you a lot of credit on that.
2 o'clock, bright sunshine, 70 degrees in Pullman, Washington. I love Washington State in this game. I love Washington
to win,
State
or just to cover?
To win outright.
You like Washington State to win this game?
Yeah, I think watching what Washington State did at Wisco to win that game on the road, I think was nothing short of sensational. They dominated Colorado State in Week 3. I'm all over Washington State. I just am not a Bo Nix guy. I know how difficult it is to play in Pullman. I love Washington State in that game, dude. I know I'm the only one. I get it, but I love him in that game. Why do you say it like
because I just think it's it's Bo Nix on the road, but it's not like he's going to Texas or like Florida or across the country. I mean it's only Pullman. Like you're not, you know what I mean? He should be good.
I'm sorry, I thought you said it's only Pullman.
Yeah, travel-wise, dude.
Pullman feels like it is in Bethesda, Maryland. Like Pullman is only on the other side of the state of Washington. I get that. It is forever and a day to get there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. By the way, and I say by the way, Florida at Tennessee. Tennessee's a 10.5 point home favorite. Tennessee's legit.
Yeah.
Tennessee's going to win that game by 17 points. I am telling you now, Tennessee has a chance for a really good season.
Yeah, I think that Tennessee-Florida game to me is probably the game of the day.
And then I want to talk about Oregon State because I'm sick and tired of hearing about Oregon State. Oh, Oregon State, the Beavs. I mean, that's one incredible beaver right there.
Beaver.
I mean, holy Toledo beaver.
The Beavs.
Now, Reser Stadium is respectable. Corvallis, Oregon, nobody wants to go there.
Yeah.
But USC's the best offense in the country. And Oregon State hasn't been tested. Oh, Oregon State's undefeated. I mean, look at us. I mean, SC's only a 6-point favorite coming into our house. This is our house.
SC's going to trash them.
Oregon State is not as good as I think people make them out to be. And I am going to be very interested to see, because if Oregon State wins this game, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked. I think USC wins this game by 10 at least. And only because it's on the road. But it's a night game on the road on Pac-12 Network, you jerks.
So dumb, dude. So dumb.
I think SC wins by 10.
Yeah, I think you got to give that to SC all day.
I think they win by 10. Let's get a couple of comments in here. Jansen says, I hope Arkansas wins. I want them to be a top 5 team when they come to Provo to lose. When they come to Provo,
yeah, I think you're up in the night, buddy. I don't think that they're losing in Provo.
I mean, are you an Arkansas believer?
Yeah.
You are an Arkansas
Yeah, I think
believer.
Arkansas is good, dude.
I think Texas A&M, I have no idea what to make of Jimbo and Texas A&M.
Yeah, because they haven't proven anything. Because it's Jimbo. That's what Jimbo does.
Remember this game is being played at AT&T Stadium in Arlington.
Yeah.
So this is technically not a Texas A&M home game. But I think you're Arkansas, you're number 10, and remember that this is a Texas A&M team that's coming off of an awful loss to Appy State. They did not exactly impress against Miami. I think Arkansas is winning this game.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that A&M is anything to sit here and be like, oh, it's A&M. Like, this is Arkansas all day.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Hundo P. Let's see, who else? Diesel D says USC plays one ranked team all season. Their strength of schedule is like 98th in the nation, and they still have the best offense in the country. I've seen just about every snap of their games this year. They're very good.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, they are. There is nothing that I have seen from USC's offense that concerns me the least bit. Dye is a phenomenal receiver of the football, and he's a prolific running back. You look at what you get out of those two wide receivers. You look at Caleb Williams. They're starting to throw the ball at the tight ends more. I don't know. I mean, they're very good.
Yeah.
They are very, very good. Mac Mize says Oregon State should do what Iowa State is planning to do with the area around their football stadium. Smart move. Okay, cool. Ames, Iowa for the win, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Diesel D says week 3 usually is always a week of good teams playing bad teams. Most teams want to play one good team in the first 2 weeks, then a layup game for the 3rd week. I'm ready for college football to be like good. Next week, the SEC kicks off. Like the scrimmages are over.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Tennessee, Florida is
that's going to be a great game.
You got to watch that game.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game.
I think Tennessee. I'd be putting my money on Tennessee and Arkansas.
Okay.
That's where I would be. Football at 50, 10 of the hour, every hour. We talk nothing but the biggest headlines in football. It's always presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza. I am so stoked. It's Friday night. In the Monty compound, that means we're having
Casa
Papa
de
Murphy's
Monty.
Pizza. Yep, we'll get 2 large pizzas. And actually, Mrs. Monty we'll get her a small pizza.
Right.
For us, the man's pizza, crust, the dough, the barbecue sauce.
Right.
The mozzarella.
The
onion mix.
Mm-hmm.
The cheese mix. Then you got to put the pineapple, the mushroom.
Yes.
And then don't forget, not only do you have the barbecue sauce, but you got to top that with green onions.
Yes.
That's what you got to do. Or you could just get the triple pack.
No one goes all in on made-from-scratch freshness like Papa Murphy's. Because when you go all in, people notice. Go all in with the triple pet pizza for just $11.99. Papa Murphy's. Change the way you pizza.
There you go. Papa Murphy's Pizza presents Football at 50 every hour, 10 to the hour on the Monty Show. Make sure you use the promo code Monty25 when you order that pizza. Those take and bake s'mores.
No.
S'mores.
No, it's not s'mores.
It's not s'mores?
It's s'mores.